welcome to it. It's Fight Night on talkSPORT. Saturday night on the radio. You're more than welcome to come and join us. 03717 223344. I'm Adam Catterall. Pleasure to be in your company. Alongside me tonight, Paul Smith in the chair, getting his insight on many things that are going on in the world. And there's been a lot going on this week. We'll talk Canelo Crawford splashing in on Netflix. We'll also talk what's currently going on in the heavyweight scene, and of course, what might be next for one of his brothers. Fingers crossed there's a world title on the horizon. If you want to get involved with the show with us, you're more than welcome to do so. 03717 223344. It's Fight Night on talkSPORT. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No, great to have you on. Great to have you here, mate. Get a little bit of insight on everything that's been going on this week, and pick your brains about what's going on with Callum, about what's going on with Liam. And I know there'll be a lot of people.
I was just going to say there's enough brothers, isn't it?
There'll be a lot of people tuning in, mate, wanting to know what the crack is, because there's a lot of conversation in and around, obviously, Callum's division in particular, as to what direction he could be going in next, because it feels like he's on the cusp of something potentially very, very special. But we'll get stuck into that a little bit later on in the show. We'll start by getting stuck into what's going on tonight. It's Richardson Hitchens defending his world title against George Kambosos. What have you made of Richardson Hitchens and his tenure currently in the pro ranks? Do you class him as the guy at 140, or do you still hold maybe a Teofimo Lopez slightly above him?
I think Lopez is special. I just think he's had a couple of nights where he hasn't been himself. I think he's a great fighter, Hitchens, and I think he does the basics very well. I was talking with my son about him today, knowing that I was coming down here, and he's of the same opinion. He studies his boxing a lot now, and he says the same thing. He does the basics really well, which for me, as an ex-fighter, a coach, a trainer, a manager, if you do the basics really well, you've got the sport matched off. And I think Mayweather did the basics unbelievably well, and a lot of the best fighters in other sports, MMA, which you know a lot about, the ones who tend to do the basics really, really well end up being the better fighters. But again, with Kambosos, I think he's had a couple of really good nights where he's probably overachieved, let's say, without being too sort of negative towards him. I wouldn't mind one of them nights where he overachieved, put it that way. But I think, I can see Hitchens having a little bit too much for him.
What challenge do you think George brings tonight? Because I completely agree with you. He had that worldy night, didn't he, against Teofimo, and he's had a couple of goals since. Fell short against Devon, fell short against Vasyl Lomachenko. He's up in weight now at 140. What challenge do you think he actually brings to the table tonight for Richardson Hitchens?
I think what he always brings, that toughness, that attitude, that, again, sometimes the attitude with Kambosos, it's a macho man attitude, and it's a
he wants to fight.
Yeah, it's a snarling, aggressive attitude before the fight, and we've obviously seen it this time, and as Dad and his team involved, and we see that it's a regular pattern. But then on fight night, it's not matched as such as what we see before the fight. I'm trying not to be too harsh on him. He's achieved unbelievable things in the sport, as I say. I had to give anything to achieve what he achieved in the sport. So there's no sort of negativity towards that. I just feel it's about what you do on fight night and the substance that you have on fight night, and I'd love to see the aggression in the ring match the pre-fight aggression, especially for tonight. And if it does happen that way, then we'll see a really good fight. But as I say, he's been a little bit underwhelming a couple of times for me.
Yeah. It feels like, as you analyse, and again, this isn't to be disrespectful, it feels like maybe at the time someone like a Teofimo Lopez, when he did get that moment against Teo, that maybe Teo went in a little bit undercooked, maybe thought, I don't think he's all that, and he got him on that particular night, whereas other guys have been a little bit more wise, the likes of the Haney's, the likes of the Lomachenkos. They've seen what he does, and they can navigate it. And Richardson Hitchens, this is an opportunity for him to navigate tonight.
Yeah, and the names that you just said, they're unbelievable
the top
fighters,
names.
Top fighters, so there's no shame in it whatsoever. I'm trying hard not to sound like I'm bashing him.
Listen, he had a wonderful night against Selby, mate, over here, didn't he?
Yeah,
he was fantastic.
Listen, very good, and he's done well, and the step up in weight might help him a little bit as well, because obviously he struggles, obviously he's worked hard to get to the weight in the past, and that might help his performances. But as I say, the ones that have done that, as you say, Lopez and the unbelievable names. And I think Lopez, as I said before, I think he's special. I think he's so talented. If not, we see them we see these fighters or these sportsmen who are just that good that they seem to just go the other way and take their eye off the ball, and the life catches up with them outside the ring or off the pitch or whatever, you know, your George Best and everything else. And I think he is special, Lopez. I just don't think he's been 100% laser focused on it as he should have been.
I want your opinion on Andy Cruz, right? Because we were having a little bit of a chat in the green room then about fighters that might not necessarily have great amateur pedigree come into the professional game, need a little bit of time to learn the game, and the matchmaking's got to be right. Whereas I have that attitude of those elite amateurs that come into the game, you can pull the trigger on them a little bit earlier. Where are you at with Andy Cruz and his tenure in the pro game?
He's certainly one of them elite amateurs, isn't he? And I think any Cuban, you can't really hold them back. Any top fighter like him, you can't really hold them back. We've seen it with one who's just announced his retirement very recently in Lomachenko. Now, it was a little step too far in the second fight trying to go for it, but it wasn't certainly for lack of ability.
It's great effort though, isn't it?
Unbelievable effort. Something that'll possibly never be done again. We were talking about hearing something about Atoma maybe trying or someone else, but it wasn't the ability that sort of held him back. It was probably the bit of ruggedness and toughness that Salido, was it? Orlando Salido, that he had in his second fight to just outman him a little bit. But obviously he did what he did. Now this, you know, it's the same here. You can't hold them type of fighters back, I don't think. And we're seeing it. Obviously we'll get onto that later on in the show with Moses Atoma and how fast he is being moved. But yeah, there's no sort of there's no holding him back. Andy Cruz, he's phenomenal.
Well, he's on that card tonight, and I've no doubt he's got his eye on a couple of titles now that have been vacated by Keyshawn Davis. We'll talk Keyshawn later on after the disastrous week he seems to have last week. But there is also a little bit of British interest on this card as well tonight, because Sam Jones is out in New York City with a guy that he's managed to snaffle in, Adam Macker. A lot of people might not know too much about him, but again, we're talking elite amateurs, guys that have been there, done it, and got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
What a place to make a debut, man.
Unbelievable
Straight
place.
out in New York City.
Yeah, unbelievable. He's a really nice kid, Adam Macker. He beat my son in the junior ABA final, national final, and he knocked the kid out the day before, like, fast asleep. And I'm looking at it thinking, oh, my lad's got to box him tomorrow. Now I trust me lad, I rate me lad. I know he's tough as old boots and he can fight, and he's got a fair bit of ability as well and a lot of experience from his dad and his uncles, let's say. But when you see the young lad at that weight at the time, 57 kilo, knocking a kid out in the amateurs, and I'm saying kid, he was 17, 17 years of age.
But it's not man strength, is it?
He's just got this freaky, phenomenal strength, Adam Macker, and he's got a big following. He represented Albania in the amateurs. I think it's his father's side, and maybe I'm not sure, but he's really likeable lad. He'll have some following in the pros. He's teamed up with Sam Jones. They're over there making his debut at Madison Square Garden. You can't ask for more than that. That's an unbelievable start to a career, and I hope he does really well and gets everything he deserves, because, as I say, he's a really nice lad, very respectful, but he can fight.
I also like the way he talks. I've seen a couple of interviews with him this week. He's talking the talk, and I like that. I like the confidence, and obviously he's got to be managed right and put in the right position. Is a key thing for him as a young fighter coming over, big amateur pedigree, a lot of pomp, a lot of ceremony. Is it about managing the moments now? It's because this is a completely different game, isn't it, compared to the amateur game?
Totally. It's like you get to the top and then you have to step aside and you have to go again, and there's more rungs to the ladder. Now, he could have stayed amateur and tried to do a little bit more in the seniors, but he's been world amateur champion and world European 2-time, 3-time European gold medalist. There's nothing left for him to do really at the junior, early senior level. But also, as you say, it's like it's a new sport, and it's like a different sort of way of fighting. Even though that the amateur stuff will get you so far, you need to start being more of a rounded professional now as well, and adding a few little cute things here and there to your game. A lot of, good sparring, which you'll get. But I can't even remember which show it was, but I was at a show and he was there, and I was talking to him, and we were having a good chat, and he was talking to me dad and my son and everything else, and he watched two lads around about his weight, and he's like, I'd beat them now. And I know that's his attitude just by knowing him the way I do.
This week he's done an interview and he's saying, I can beat Inoue now.
He'll want to go.
He's ready to rock and roll.
He'll want to move quick, and it's Sam and his trainer and his team's job to hold him back a little bit. I believe, obviously, learn your trade. There's no rush with it with him, Adam Macker. I wouldn't be rushing too much, but the way he is and how he fights, he's so explosive, and he can punch, and he's knocked plenty out in the amateurs, and he's going to probably do that right through the pros, I believe.
It's a hard thing to do, that, isn't it? To hold a fighter back when they're so talented. Matchmaking's an art at this particular stage of his career, and that's going to be an important thing for him going forward.
Yeah, I was just actually trying to think of a few examples while you were explaining it then, but we've seen it happen where they've moved just a little bit too fast. Obviously, listen, Lomachenko's the one that we just used. But you also see fighters who probably should have made the jump a little bit sooner and tried to be let off the leash a little bit sooner, and they're waiting around and they're having a couple of pointless fights in there, which you don't technically need to have, because you know they're going to go with you winning by knockout early, and the fans start to slowly but surely turn and think it's a waste of time going to watch him, and then they lose a few ticket sales in there. But as you say, it's an art, and I don't envy the task that his manager's got at the moment in holding him back and trying to hold him back, because he will want to be let off the leash quick.
Yeah. We're going to talk Canelo Crawford in a minute, if you've got an opinion on that this week, because it does feel like it's absolutely ginormous having that involved on Netflix, and obviously in Vegas for a Mexican bank holiday weekend. We'll get stuck into it in a minute. 03717223344 if you want to join the show. Before we get stuck into that, there's the US Open that's going on. Are you a golf man?
No, I tried and felt like snapping every club in the bag. I've just got no patience for it. My brothers are, Liam and Callum are. Me and Stephen are not. It's not for me.
Well, Lisa's across it. Lisa, what's going on out in America?
Perfectly reasonable response to playing golf, I think. It's the 10th time the US Open has been played at Oakmont Country Club, and there's a lot of pros out there who probably are thinking about chucking their bags in the lake. It's been hard going for the elites, I think is a fair way to describe it. Just teeing off in his third round, though, is Aussie Adam Scott, carded 70-70 to start on level par for the third round. He is 3 shots behind the overnight and currently to Sam Burns. He'll be underway in around 20 minutes time. Ryan Gerrard, in fact, is the only player under par so far today with a 69. Rory McIlroy in the clubhouse, another 74 today, and he will start the final day a tough 10 shots over par.
US Open update on talkSPORT with Arnold Clark's Rewards Week. It's the best week to buy a car.
It's Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Paul Smith alongside me. Big news this week. Confirmation, and we knew that the fight was happening. It was just more about the confirmation of date and location and broadcaster, which has been absolutely massive for boxing. It's Canelo versus Crawford. It's undisputed versus undisputed. It's happening in Las Vegas on a Mexican holiday weekend, which is ginormous in itself. And then they're going to broadcast it to the possibility of 300 million people on Netflix. That is it. When people talk about game changers in the sport of boxing, that for me really feels like a paradigm shift. That is the one that might just capture the imagination of the casual audience come September.
Yeah, I agree. Netflix is another level, and it's hard to say everyone's got it, because I don't want to sound like the monthly fees just nothing to be everyone's got it, but a lot of people have got it, and obviously with the viewing numbers that we have, we've seen it with Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano on Netflix. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
It's all the same thing, wasn't it?
And now obviously this is going to be there, but they said something like, forget why I mentioned Taylor Serrano, forget the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, and I won't say circus as in Jake Paul, I mean Mike Tyson coming back at 57 years of age. They got about 10 or 15 million more views than Katie Taylor Serrano, who had something like 70 odd million viewers.
Yeah.
For a female fighter on Netflix, it's not heard of, and them numbers are frightening. And this one, as you say, for the purists, I think it will be a fight for the purists. I think it will be a bit of a chess match. I can't see it being blood and guts and thunder. I can see it being a good quality chess match. But I'd probably watch that 7 days a week, and I can't wait for this fight. I think it's a brilliant fight between two elite fighters, and the amount of people that are going to watch it's going to be frightening on Netflix. I think it's absolutely brilliant for boxing.
The concurrent people watching the Taylor Serrano was around about 65 million people, right? So 65 million all at once around the world tuning in to two elite female fighters having it. And of course it went up, as you've just said there, for Tyson and Paul. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to get close to Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Reason being, it's Mike Tyson.
Yep.
He's an icon. Jake Paul's got a different audience that he's bringing to the table. But when you've got the possibility of showcasing this to 300 million people, the strength that has for the sport of boxing, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. Because we know talking about this fight, yes, there's a weight discrepancy, right? We know that, and people might poke holes in that. But we're talking about an undisputed guy, one of the best on the planet from the lower weight divisions, taking on one of the... Okay, he might be on the Indian summer of his career now, but once upon a time, he was the number one guy on the planet as well, Canelo, and he's definitely still in that top 10 when you're talking about the best fighters on the planet. So this is as good as it gets. It's undisputed, best of the best. I love that it's in Vegas. This is no disrespect to anywhere else on the planet. It is the fight capital of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, fight capital, definitely. It's Fight City, isn't it? And the huge fights of old have always been in Vegas.
And, of course, it's a Mexican holiday weekend. Before we get into the nuances of the fight, this is obviously going to be promoted by Turki Al-Sheikh, and he's teaming up with the TKO guys, which is Dana White, Nick Khan from the WWE. What do you make of that, of them coming in, first and foremost, to the space, and secondly, announcing their first show like this, getting off to an absolute flyer?
I think it's been sort of inevitable for a long time for people who are involved in any way, shape or form in boxing or MMA. It's been a bit of an unkept secret that Dana White was going to come over to boxing, but I welcome it, and I want sort of all the top promoters, all of the top people in the world, all working better for better pay, better fights for the fans, for boxers. I want to see mega fights, and this is a mega fight, and if this was and can't only happen because of Turki Al-Sheikh or Dana White being involved, let's go. I'm really happy with that. Matchroom are brilliant, Queensberry are brilliant. Obviously, over in the States, you've got all the top promoters over there, but there's no reason why they shouldn't work together. And the fact that Turki Al-Sheikh, Riyadh Season, Seller are involved, they are sort of the middlemen who are making all of this possible. And obviously, they've got the money and the payment to back it up, but it's the promoters have all sort of lost their egos now, and they're willing to work together, which is great. And seeing Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren laughing and joking on stage together at one of these shows, it's brilliant. It is good to see, and I've seen them at the worst. I've seen the bickering, I've seen the arguing, the fighting, the shouting, the court cases. But this is what we want to see as boxing fans, and for boxers or people involved with boxers, that you've got a chance of getting these mega fights, which usually in the past it was, these were a different network. We're not going to get that. That's
the key thing, in it. That everybody now seems to be on the same page. Everybody seems to be wanting, we want to make the best fights and we want to get people paid. And it doesn't matter necessarily where that goes. Now, I know there's a lot, obviously, of promoters that have affiliated and aligned themselves with DAZN, so it makes it an awful lot easier to make those ones. This isn't. This is a Netflix thing. This is a Ring Magazine thing. But I would still like to think that, let's say, a Queensberry fighter or a Matchroom fighter or a top-ranked fighter who we could pair together with another top quality from somewhere else could still feature on the undercard of Canelo Crawford, so that we can make them all come together for that, because hopefully,
definitely,
if they do really well on that card, with 300 million eyeballs watching it, it's only going to do well when they come back to DAZN on the Queensberries on the matchroom cards.
Exactly, and there is some great fighters who were signed over here on that bill as well, on the undercard for, female fighting at the moment. It's some of the best fighters in the world. Chantal Cameron's training with my brother every day. I'm seeing her in the gym, how she's working and how hard she's working in the gym to be on and be involved with on a show of this magnitude. Katie Taylor's an icon, and I can't praise her enough for how well she's done and what she's done for boxing for herself, not just female boxing, for boxing and Irish boxing. And to see her get the chance to top the bill again on a show of this magnitude, to be watched by that many people. And what I was saying sort of before by the Netflix thing is, people are not really going to go and possibly spend a little bit of extra money to buy a boxing specific channel, but they've certainly got Netflix, so they're going to watch that if it's on. And yourself, you're flicking through the channels, you're channel hopping, and all of a sudden there's a fight on. You're going to probably watch the fight, or a football match, or a sporting event, because we like sport. And if you're on Netflix and you're clicking it on because you're a bit bored and you don't really follow as such, and then all of a sudden live sport coming within half an hour, you're pressing it on, you're going to boil a kettle, you make a cup of tea and you sit down, you watch, or you go and get a beer out the fridge and you watch it. And I think the casual viewer that will tune into this just because of the event and because it's on Netflix again, I think the numbers will be really high. And we mentioned before about the last numbers of the big show. I think, listen, I'm hoping that it'll get close to that on this show, and I've got no dog in the race. I think it's going to be a brilliant.
I agree, mate. I don't think it's just the night either, because it's Netflix. They can make the shoulder programming, like we used to get the 24/7 HBO type stuff. That they can pump
and how good were they?
Oh, mate, they're amazing.
As you said before, the ears are standing up on your eyes watching them, and the voice, the iconic voice was Leif Schreiber, wasn't it? And you just knew there was a massive event coming. And on like the last one, you see both camps watching each other.
Yeah,
and they're watching it because it's only a week to go to the fight. Like, I'd love to see something like that again involved with this show.
But that is exactly what attracts the casual fan to it. You know that I'm going to ask you how you think this is going to play out, because I think they're just both superb technicians. So which technician do you think will gain the upper hand in this one?
It's so tough to go against Crawford, but it's Canelo, and I think he's exceptional. His brain is
well, your family's had first-hand experience of Canelo, right? So what does he do amazing?
And he closes distance so well. He avoids your shots so well. He doesn't. He's not in them positions to be hit clean and be caught clean, and we don't see him being caught clean much. We don't see him being hurt much at all, because of how well his defence is and how good he is at getting out the way of shots. You see all these drills that he does in the gym every day, and we see so many trainers around the world who can't do it, who would never be able to do it, trying to replicate the stuff that he does in the gym. It's Canelo, and it's different, and he's got that muscle memory where he throws a shot and all of a sudden, bang, he rolls after he slips out the way and he gets out the way of shots. And we've seen so many slow motion clips of it, but that's drilled in the gym daily, constantly, that he's constantly worked so hard and to stay at the top and be at the top. And we see it in other sports with Ronaldo and other people. To stay at the top of your game for that long, you've got to be special, but you've got to work so hard. It's not just talent, and it's not just winging it and getting by. He's worked and he's put the work, and he deserves everything he's getting. It's hard to look past Crawford based on what he's done recently and how good he is, and the size factor I don't think will be too much. I could be wrong.
Height-wise, they look very similar though, mate.
And Crawford is always trying to get down to the weight working hard as well. So my personal opinion, I'll say it, and again, as I say, I could be completely wrong on fight night, but I'm not bothered if I'm wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times. I don't think the size difference will be too much, because I think Crawford's a big lad.
Yeah.
And he's thick, he's solid, he's going to be working hard at keeping that size, gaining a bit of extra muscle, putting a few extra pounds on. And he's had long enough to know this fight's coming also. So I think the size difference won't be too much of a factor, and possibly the younger, fresher, although he's not that young himself, will possibly nick it.
Do you think lateral movement, the way, because when sometimes you watch Crawford, it's very hard to pick whether he's a southpaw or an orthodox fighter.
He does both so well.
He's so good coming off either stance, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he moves beautifully as well, out of range. Do you think that could cause Canelo an awful amount of problem?
Yeah, it could, but again, I think Canelo, if I'm thinking back right, I'm not sure he's had too many of the best nights against southpaws himself in the past. It could be an issue. Listen, we've seen Marvin Hagler, he was the best at it. He was one of the best ambidextrous boxers we've ever seen, in my opinion. but he didn't fight too much like Crawford. But Crawford as well is, again, his brain is very underrated. How clever he is, how his ring craft, where he is in the ring, and he can obviously fight and get stuck in when he needs to. I'm siding with Crawford for now, but maybe after a few episodes or whatever preview show they'll watch, I'll probably get suckered in and start thinking Canelo's going to do it again. But this is one of them fights. I said it might not be blood and guts, it might be a chess match.
Yeah,
it might be one for the purists, but I still think the average fan will really enjoy it. But like, probably the first fight between Beterbiev and Bivol, we were expecting a bloodbath, and it was a chess match, and I loved it.
But a really good one, and with lots of
fight,
action.
After the fight, the average casual fan may not have liked it that much, but I would watch that 7 days a week. I'd watch them fight 5 times, and it'd probably be the same performance and the same outcome.
Yeah.
Either way, just nicking it every time because they're so evenly matched. I think this might be very similar.
But is that because you've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, right, and you can understand how things are working, how things aren't working, how things are being countered, all those types of things in that first fight that you talk about with Beterbiev Bivol? They were mesmerising to me to watch them just dance in that way, trying to it was the unspoken things that was the beautiful thing about it, trying to make somebody do something that they don't necessarily want to do, that trap setting exercise, which is probably going to be a very similar thing to what we find here.
Both fighters, Canelo and Crawford, they love setting traps. Canelo more than anyone. We see Canelo working on setting traps every single day that you see any sort of footage from inside the gym. And he's known for them routines, and he'll do the same routine for a round until he gets it right. But it's always setting a trap. It's either a feint to the body and it comes over to the head, or he'll feint to the head, comes down the body and come back to the head. It's always setting traps, and that's the part of boxing that has always fascinated me. And you've got to be really sly in there. You've got to be sort of, deceiving. I want to deceive you. I want you to think this is coming to the body. I'm going to bring it up to your chin and knock it out with it, or vice versa. And Ricky Hatton was always great at doing that, touching the head first, then bang, whipping it to the body, and he knocks so many out. And it's not necessarily the shot that has got all the power in that does it. It's the shot that you don't see. You don't see it because there's a trap set before it, and that's what will be phenomenal. That's what will be fascinating and in this type of fight, and the purist might appreciate it a bit more. I watch a game of football with a professional footballer sitting next to me. He's seen a different game than me. He's 5 moves ahead of me. I'm watching the ball. He's watching the defender come out. It's the same as you say with a pro fighter when you're watching a fight with a pro. They're a few moves ahead of you, but this one I think will be edge of your seat stuff where one mistake here or there, you're going to see either fighter capitalise completely on it, and they are that good. I think it's going to be an unbelievable fight.
What did Liam and Callum, respectively, say about Canelo in the aftermath of their contest with him?
Liam more so he couldn't believe the size of him on Fight Night compared to the weigh-in. He said
well, that one was at 154, wasn't it? That was at 154.
He's like, I fancy my chances at the weigh-in. I looked at him and thought, I'm going to do you tomorrow. He said, he gets in the ring, it's a different person. He said it was just the size of him, but obviously how good he goes to the body, how he disguises his shot well. Callum was explaining to me about how he just closes the distance down so well with his feet, and it's not a lunge or a jump in range. He just seems to creep in range before you know, and then he's in range and he lets the shots go. He's landing, and that's one thing that always stood out about me, what Callum said to me. And then when I've watched him back, because I haven't watched either of them fights back, I've watched a few clips of Liam because he had a right good go early on with some good exchanges, and it was quite an exciting fight at the start. But watching how he does that, then knowing what they've told me, he closes distance really well. He's always in the right position to throw. He's always in a good position in the ring, and he becomes the boss. You're dancing to his beat, to use an old Buddy McGirt saying. You dance to his beat, he never dances to your beat. And I think the fight with Bivol, it was the other way around, and probably why we didn't see it go his way.
Yeah, he seems really good at front foot pressure. Similar to what Usyk does, for example. You might start the fight in 6th gear, and he's making you work at that pace in order to wait for those gaps, to then take advantage of those gaps. Yeah,
it's front foot pressure and relentless pressure, but it's not like the old Paul Ingle type pressure where it's just non-stop coming forward. Because
it's foot placement where he is.
He's so clever with it, as you say. So it must be, and again, my 2 brothers know this, it must be draining. It must be like just so demoralising when you're trying to get a little bit of fresh air here or there, and then all of a sudden he just takes one step and he's covering the ground up. But he's an example that I will always use to lads or girls that I'm training now of how to close distance down. And don't take 3-4. Billy Graham used to always say this to me years ago, and he says it to all his fighters that he trained. He used to say, don't take 3 steps if you can do it in 1. You know, don't be doing fast, short steps. Just glide across the ring, cut the ring off, have them moving and doing all the dancing. Not before you know it, 2 rounds have gone. They're in 3rd gear, moving around. You're in 1st gear, just stepping across. And it's how you close the ring down. That's what, obviously, Canelo and Crawford are both phenomenal, but Canelo is special.
Well, if you missed the news this week, September 13th is the date. Vegas is the location. If you can't get to Vegas, just put your Netflix on. It'll be there for you as Canelo and Crawford are going at it. Interesting one, just to finish on it, they didn't announce a venue. Most people would think that it would be T-Mobile, but, you know, could they do 80,000, 90,000 tickets for Allegiant Stadium? Could they do it in the NFL Stadium?
I don't know. With the as we've been saying, and as you keep saying here, this is like the purest. I don't think Crawford has that big, huge following.
I agree.
In the States. Canelo certainly does.
Yeah.
And he did 50-odd thousand against my brother Liam in Dallas.
Yeah,
Obviously, he's got a big following there. He's done Dallas a couple of times. I think Billy Joe Saunders as well.
Yeah.
So he did San Antonio with Callum. That was Jordan Colvin. I think that was 20-odd thousand in there. So the Alamo,
he can pull a crowd.
He can certainly put bums on seats. Listen, I think forget what Crawford following he has or doesn't have. This is Canelo, as you say, and there's an argument that he could do that, but I'm happy wherever it is, and I think it's going to be...
Netflix is fine with us. Netflix.
Yeah, as you say, if you can't get over there, you've got a front row seat with Netflix.
Absolutely. We're talking heavyweights next. Don't go anywhere. We're streaming on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel. If you want to come and join us there, comment section is well and truly open. We're talking heavyweights. I'm Adam Catterall. Paul Smith's alongside me. And Cole Frampton's been on talkSPORT this week. He's been talking to the guys on Drive. And he started talking about Moses Atalma ahead of his fight with Dillian Whyte.
And I've said this and I've had idiots online criticise me, but I mean it. He's probably similar to Tyson in terms of his stature. He's a little bit bigger than Tyson. Mike Tyson we're talking about here, but he's a better mover than Mike Tyson, like a bit more fluid. Tyson had big deliberate head movements and he moved very, big massive movements which use energy. Moses I think he's a smart fighter. He's got maybe the fastest hands in heavyweight boxing since Mike Tyson. I think personally he moves better than him. But obviously as he goes up through the levels, we'll see how good he is. I genuinely think the kid's a superstar in the making.
Carl Frampton on Drive a little earlier on this week talking about Moses Atalma. You may have seen that it has now been confirmed that Atalma versus White is the next fight. We've got a bit of an undercard on that as well, which we're going to get stuck into in a minute. Where are you at on the Moses Atoma train? Are you driving it? Are you a passenger? Are you just waiting to get on? Where are you?
I think he's brilliant. I think he's frightening. Don't take this the wrong way. I didn't want him to beat Mike Tyson's record. I didn't want anyone to beat that. I've said for years that will never be beaten, and I sort of...
That's nostalgia playing there, mate.
It's nostalgia, and the love I always had and still have for Mike Tyson growing up. He was me hero growing up. I used to, I was probably the only kid in the country, 7 years of age, who wanted him to beat Mike Tyson. Frank Bruno, sorry. And I was probably the only Brit at the time who wanted that decision. But I grew up watching Mike Tyson's greatest hits, and to see someone like him come along now at home and thinking he's the same age as what Tyson was at the time, or Tyson was blasting everyone out, but whoever's been put in front of the Tom has been blasted out as well and being beat with relative ease. And Carl Frampton's got a brilliant opinion on boxing. He's got a really good boxing brain, and what he's saying makes so much sense. He's the real deal, and what we're seeing from him at the moment is proving that and backing that up. He's gone through everyone like a knife through butter. Knife through butter. Sorry, it's
a different style though, isn't it, to Mike Tyson, as Carl was kind of alluding to there. Yeah. There was a lot of aggression with Mike in the late 80s, early 90s. This guy's so light. He moves like a middleweight in that heavyweight frame.
Yeah, so light, relaxed. Nice fast counters here and there. His last knockout was sort of a counter right hook, one sharp right hook.
Going backwards
did the damage. He's obviously a concussive puncher, but speed kills as well. And that's what happened with Mike Tyson. It was a lot of speed and destructive power. But Atoma has that destructive power, and he's been matched tough, I think, so far, and he's got through them easily. So now they're matching him tougher, and I think this is a tough match for him. I think it's a very tough match for him. Dylan White, he's tough as all boots, Dylan, and if he can beat Dylan White, then he's certainly, I'll take my hat off to him. Is certainly the real deal.
What's your initial thoughts on it, on the matchup?
Tough matchmaking, and it's sink or swim. I think it's a very good matchup for the fans who are getting carried away as I am and as we all are with them, to see if we're right, because this is a tough matchup. There was easier matchups out there to be made that would still be classed as a very good matchup for him, in my opinion. And Dylan White's a very tough fighter.
What's in it for Dylan, do you think?
A chance to sort of beat him and establish the fact that he shouldn't have probably been in there with him. That's what Dylan will be thinking, I think, and Dylan will certainly be thinking this is too soon for this kid, and I'm going to make sure that I put this kid in his place. Dylan's an old, wily, tough, durable fighter who's been there, seen it, and done it, and not just in boxing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a proper fighter. He's a hard fella as it is anyway, but he's been involved with K1. I watched Dylan White sparring years ago in a gym in Wigan with Rampage Jackson. He did 4 rounds with boxing gloves on. Stopped after 4 rounds, put the shin pads on, and started doing 4 rounds kicking and punching, and more than held his own. He's a tough man. I respect him a lot, and as I say, I think this fight is a tough match for Moses Atoma. If he comes through that, then he's definitely the real deal.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully speaking to Dillian as to what the mindset is on this, because I can see all these different angles when I speak to fans about it. Fans will look at this and go, Dillian White's cashing out, right? And hopefully he's getting well paid to obviously take on a Moses Atoma. But then I start to try and think of what is in that for Dillian White. Where does that put him? How does it project him in this heavyweight landscape? And if you stop a hype train, then all of a sudden, even people can play down the hype train by stopping something as colossal that is Moses Atoma. You can put yourself back in that picture. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a very, very tough task, because I watch Moses Atoma and I haven't seen anything that moves like that for a long period of time in that heavyweight frame. And okay, the level of opponents that he's beaten so far might not necessarily be of the elite. And I'm not saying that Dillian White right now is of the elite, but it's absolutely on the pathway to that. If Dillian White can stop it, then all of a sudden Dillian White gets himself back in a conversation for some really big fights. I'm not saying world title fights, but what I am saying is really, really big fights. So it is. I personally think, as a piece of matchmaking, I think it's absolutely fantastic. More so for Moses Atoma, but I can see the benefit for Dillian White if he manages to pull it off.
Yeah. I've just been looking at the rankings while you were talking and asking me that question, because obviously I said before, I think it's really good matchmaking, but there was easier fights that he could have had and still got the credit for. And the names below Dylan White in Britain. So obviously, the world rankings, the highest ranked heavyweight is obviously from Britain, is Dubois. But Dylan White's number 12 in the world. Chisora's 14th. Riakpor's 17th. Them two fights would have been very good matchmaking. Joe Joyce is 28. I had a feeling it would have been Joe Joyce or Chisora. And I wouldn't have liked to saw either of them, because I think the pair of those are past the best. And Chisora's just looking for one more, and he's going to probably retire. I think Joe Joyce should have retired 2 fights ago. Never mind the last fight. That's, again, just my opinion. Adelaide's 32. Hughie Fury is 35.
These names that you're
Fraser
naming.
Clark is 37. There's good names there that we can, and Moses himself is number 30. So let's say just the ones above him. Joe Joyce is 2 places above him in the world, not just. They're only the UK fighters that I'm mentioning. Now, any one of those we'd have been happy with, whether it be not so much a Joe Joyce for me personally.
Yeah, but like what you just said there, if you put Richard Riakpor's jumped in, right? He's fought for a world title in the weight division below. Okay, he came up short. You've got a Coley as well that is also now a heavyweight. These types of
Fraser Clark would have been a really good fighter, I think. A really good fight.
And if they make that, then of course, listen, people will jump on it and say, well, Fabio Wardley blew Fraser Clark away. But for this stage of Moses Atama's career, it would have been all right.
Yeah. And what would you say if it was Fabio Wardley? You know, these are good fights, as you say. Now I'm only mentioning obviously the British fighters, but there's some other good fighters out there in world boxing that I can get to. But if he beats, now why I mention those, obviously Dylan White, in my opinion, is ranked above your Fraser Clarks and above your Joe Joyces and Chisoras. That's why I mentioned them names being below Dylan White. So
I get it.
He's bypassing those if he is to beat Dylan White and go straight into probably the top 10, 11 in the world. And that's a tough.
But this is where it gets fun, though, doesn't it? Because if he does come through and he looks as spectacular as he's looked in the fights that we've seen so far in the pro ranks, you can't then go backwards with him. You can't tread water with him. You kind of just got to go, right, go on then. Reins are off, away you go, son.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Once you get there, that's it. That's why we say about matching fighters carefully. And we were talking at the start of the show about your Lomachenkos and your Cruzes and other fighters. Once you get there, you can't come back. You can't go and beat someone in the top 10 and all of a sudden go back down to fighting top 15, 20 and 30 fighters. You've got to sort of stay at that table, and you've bypassed all of that. And he is, Moses Atama, bypassing a lot of fighters, or certainly a good few solid fighters, to get to Dylan White, who's ranked above those fighters because he's either beaten them or done better than them. And then if he is to win, as I say, then he's stuck at that level. But that's obviously what they want, because they know this. They're not silly. The team backing them, it's Francis Warren and Frank Warren. They're not stupid. They know how to build fighters. Frank, probably more so better than anyone, is known for building fighters really well, heavyweights included. And once he gets there, he's going to stay there. So this is a huge fight for him, and a big fight for obviously British boxing and British heavyweights. And if he is to beat Dylan White, then every credit to him. You know, the rankings are speaking for themselves, as we said. There is easier fights there for him, and I think in Britain the top 20 heavyweights in Britain is a decent decent roll call here. But Moses Atama's number 10, Joyce 9, Riakpor 8, Chisora 7, Dylan White 6, Akoli 5. And then Fury, Joshua, Wardley, and Dubois is the top 4. So it's a stacked division. And you know, the fact that we're mentioning Dylan White only being number 6 in there, if Moses Atama's to beat him, as I keep repeating myself, it's a hell of a win.
Do you know him, Moses?
I've met him a couple of times. I've had literally just a couple of conversations.
Because I just want to ask about temperament, because that might be the thing. The talent, I look at the eye test and I think, wow, man, this is a special thing. What's the temperament like? Is he? I mean, he seems like a really mild-mannered, quiet type of guy.
Just going to say, so I've met him probably twice, maybe 3 times, just respectful, shook his hand, said hello.
Yeah.
He looks half asleep. He just chilled, just dead relaxed, dead chilled, not on phase. A bit like what my brother Callum is, just very quiet from what but I don't know him, as I say. I know Dylan White. I know him personally. I consider him a mate. He's a good lad, and he's quite chilled until he goes, and then he definitely goes, and we've seen that happen before. But listen, his temperament is very what I see, very quiet, but I don't know him. You know, most of the time, and the people that are close to him and that know him well, they'll know him inside out, and he doesn't have to show us what he is. He doesn't have to show the boxing fans around what he is. He can keep that to himself behind closed doors. But when he fights,
no, I'm just thinking about magnitude of event. For example, let's say he comes through Dillian. I mean, it's big because it's a headline thing. It's obviously a Riyadh season show. This is his moment, isn't it, to kind of come out of that shadow. And then as it gets bigger and the opponents get bigger, we might be talking stadium shows and those types of things. I'm trying to get into the head of the temperament of being able to deal with those moments. I suppose we only find out when we get there, don't we, whether they can or can't deal with that type of magnitude of event. But I'm sure every single fan listening to this right now is extremely excited. I'm going to jump ahead here, right?
Yep.
Just think purely on Moses Atama. Is there anybody, matchup-wise, from what you've just seen on the eye test, that you wouldn't put him in with?
Usyk.
Do you stop there?
If Fury comes back, probably Fury. Just yet.
I'm
talking
today.
Just for now.
I'm just talking today.
But we saw a couple of signs of aging in Fury against Ngannou as well. So I'd like to think that could be great matching if he was to fight someone like Fury and jump in at the deep end. Let's say that Fury might not be at the races because he's had a really grueling career and a career that anyone who's ever laced a pair of gloves up would be absolutely proud of.
Would you put him in with Dubois?
I'd put him in with Dubois, yeah. But again, that's just me. I'm not completely in the Dubois boat and never really have been from what I've seen of him in the past and what I've watched. I think there's a lot that he can work on, and he is working on, by the way, and he's improving a lot. And he did unbelievably well against Anthony Joshua and got my full respect for that, and I thought he did really good, and his attitude, his demeanour is changing a bit, but let's see how he is in this rematch. I think the talk that he's saying in this rematch, like there was an injustice and I'm back, and like I disagree with that. I think the fight was Usyk's.
Yeah.
As long as he wanted it, and the shot that landed, I believe, was a low blow and called the correct way. And I feel like Usyk was always in control in that fight and never bothered. So what I'm hearing doesn't really match what I saw. That's my only problem with that. But I would, if I was looking after the Tom, I'd put him in with Dubois. Yeah.
So Usyk. And if Fury was back, they're probably the only two.
Just the old man stuff in Fury, the old boxing brain, the old, being the size that he is, the weight that he is, leaning on him, making it tricky for him, not really getting caught clean. I wouldn't, if I was guiding the tournament, I wouldn't put him in with Fury just yet, and I definitely wouldn't put him in with Usyk just yet. But there's nothing saying that in a year's time that would be a different story.
I think I'm with you, mate. I like what I see. I really do. And I'm looking forward to this one with Dillian White. We'll continue the heavyweight conversation in a moment or two because there's plenty to talk about. But first, let's get a little bit more from the golf. Lisa's across it. What's going on?
Well, our leaders are out and have played the first hole, and JJ Spawn has joined Sam Burns on the overall lead. 3 under for the tournament in their third round as the sun comes out over Oakmont Country Club in Pennsylvania. We've just seen a cracking bit of play from Victor Hovland as well. The Norwegian, the only person I think who'd be delighted to bogey the first hole, a miraculous shot after an unplayable over in the right-hand side by the fairway, pretty much, as in, sorry, not the fairway, the freeway. Couldn't even see his ball properly, had to be pointed out, whereas took the drop and then played an absolute corker after a really nasty, muddy path. So he is looking good on the European side of things. And also, we've heard from Rory McIlroy. It's the first time he's spoken to the media in 6 post-match opportunities that he has declined to speak to the media. He described his round today as pretty average. Says, I was hoping to play better, but I didn't. And has also spoken about not speaking to the media, saying that he felt he needed to get away and not speak to the media for a bit. So I think everyone will be picking up over that. But the first pair are out. Our leaders played the first, 17 more for them to go.
US Open update on talkSPORT with Arnold Clark's Rewards Week. Get a reward when you buy a car today.
let's carry on the conversation about heavyweight, shall we? We've got stuck into Italma and what's coming up next for him and how far we think he might be able to go. What's next for Fabio Wardley after his Hollywood punch from a couple of weeks back?
It was some shot, wasn't it? It was
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Came from nowhere. I didn't see it coming at all. I genuinely thought that Justice Sooney was going to cost that. He was on his I think at the time, I'd only given Fabio Wardley one round.
Yeah, I was actually at Barnsley helping my brother out in young Frankie Stinger's corner.
Yeah.
And ended up getting caught up in the main event of that one and then flicked it back on and just saw it and everyone was saying, oh, you know, he's well down and looking like it's got, and then it just comes out of nowhere. And we've seen it in the past. These stadium fights tend to bring the best out for the home fight. And we've seen it with Bellew in his world title fight where he got put down, but they got up and found it, you know, not miraculously, found it a devastating knockout to become world champion. We've seen it with Fabio Wardley, albeit he's not coming world champion yet, but there's he'll remember that night for the rest of his life, and the fans that were there on that night in Ipswich, Portman Road, they'll remember that for the rest of their life as well. As brilliant event, great sort of rocky story, and as you say, you know, what do we see next from him?
Well, what do we see next? Because with all due respect, right, we watched the fight and Justice Sooney outboxes him, so therefore there'll be people looking at it going, right, we found the level of Fabio Wardley now, and I can understand that narrative, and I can understand why a lot of fans would say that, but he has got two things that I don't think you can teach. He's got an unbelievable set of minerals because he stays in that fight. He's getting pinged and he stays in there. And you can't teach that, the minerals of wanting to fight. And he's got God-given power.
Yeah. Listen,
so he's a threat. What I'm saying is that he's a threat to anybody.
Yeah, there's an argument that could be the level. But he's got the equaliser.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your level is if you punch like that, and you can always sort of get out of jail with that. I think he's done brilliant for himself for where he came from. I think it's a great story. It's a fairy tale story. He's come from the white collar route, from the amateur, not much amateur experience, and he's beat top fighters who've had that amateur experience. And he's riding the crest of a wave now and deserves every last bit of it as well. And the fact that he's got that equaliser, and people talk about like, that might be his level, then it's some level to be at with that power, and the power will always get him there. Now, I've been critical in the past of the fact that Anthony Ardsena will go on about the fact that he did really well against Beterbiev in the fight that he lost in the 8th round or the 9th round, and he did very well against Kovalev in the fight that he lost in a similar round. And my attitude is always, it's a 12-round fight. It's okay giving a good effort early on, but if you can't maintain that for 12 rounds, then there's no point in even talking about it. Fabio Wardley's a perfect example of that, and I think he said in one of the interviews in the build-up, which was great and poetic really at the end, I only have to be perfect once. You've got to be perfect for every minute of every round, every second of every round, and that's what makes someone like Fabio Wardley great.
It's a Deontay Wilder line, that as well,
exactly, but it makes it great to watch. Now, with him, you know you're in a 12-round fight and you can't switch off until he's either gone down, counted out for 10, or completely beaten, because he can still land that equaliser with 5 seconds to go in the last round. And that's me point to what I'm trying to wrap it all together there is, it's a 12-round fight and he is alive in that 12-round fight because of that power that he has. It doesn't matter how much you're outboxing him. You could be outboxing him 11 rounds to 1 and finding it easy and switch off for a split second, and you're getting knocked out by him because he carries that power, as well as you say, the minerals to stick in there and not give in, not quit, and keep taking what he's taking. And the toughness. I've seen that nose injury what he's had in a bad way, and he's still biting down and going forward and going for it. They hurt. You get it with some uppercuts inside on the nose sometimes, and it's not even cut, and you're wincing yourself, and you don't want to show the opponent. And as soon as you get inside the shoulder, you'll pull that face and you'll wipe the blood off yourself. You'll stand back up and you'll put your face back on and you'll go for it. That's a proper fighter. He's a proper fighter. He always has been. So with someone like that, you can't write him off. So people who are watching that in a long-winded way, thinking that he might be, that's his level, you know, and I'll outbox him, you know, think again. You've got to be switched on with someone like Fabio Wardley, as is being proven now. He's
in a weird position now, isn't he? Because that, I think, was for an interim title last weekend. We've got the Undisputed Championship coming up. We've got him as an interim. We've got Parker as an interim. We've got Catterall as an interim. Do you match any of them together? Or, I mean, there's a Pulev, I suppose, that is still in and around that WBA high rankings for someone like a Fabio Wardley.
So again, he's being guided by Frank, and he will guide him in the right way, as he's been proven 99% of the time to do so. He's good at guiding fighters to that way. I don't know what I would do with him there. I'm looking at the rankings now when we start talking about this. I've just got the rankings up, and he's number 5 in the world.
It's
now.
Really tough now.
Number 4 is Parker, 3 is Caballel, 2 is Dubois, and 1 is obviously Usyk. Below him is Joshua.
Yeah.
Would you put him in with Anthony Joshua even at this stage? As again, possibly not. But below him is Fury, Lawrence Okoli. He's a nightmare for most people with a style. He's not. It's not a nice style to watch, in my opinion. Without being too harsh on him, and I don't think people would be queuing up to buy tickets to watch him fight after some of the previous performances. But he can crack. He's big. He's long. He's rangy. He's awkward. Below him is Gassiev, Hunter, Bakoli. Bakoli is possibly a good fight, but again, Bakoli on his day, if he's fit and he's not in the terrible shape that he's been in recently, he can fight. Bakoli, and he's very, very capable. He's a good fighter. He's got ability. He's got skill. He was usually quite durable until the Parker fight, obviously, and that's an interesting one. But then after that, it doesn't really get much interesting with like the likes of Ergovic and Torres and Riak Porina. So where do you go with him? Because I wouldn't like to choose his next fight.
Get stuck into that point, because we'll bring it back up later on when we're talking all things Anthony Joshua. That's a little bit later on in the show. The boys were out in Ghana last night for a show run by Amir Khan. You're going to hear from him next on the show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to it. It is Saturday night on talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Paul Smith's alongside me, quite apt, because in about half an hour, what is the latest with the Smith brothers? That's going to be one of our topics of conversation. We'll get stuck into that, and who better to give us the information than the main man, Paul Smith. We're going to talk about the nightmare in Norfolk. That was last weekend with Keyshawn Davis losing his belt on the scales and then having a scrap with a geezer that beat his brother. Crackers. He's really damaged his reputation, but we'll get stuck into that a little bit later on. We'll talk about fighter skipping cues and where we're all at with Anthony Joshua. If you want to get involved, you can do. 03717 22 33 44. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT. We're streaming live on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel as well, so you can get stuck in there. Thank you very much for all the comments that are coming in. We'll try and get to some of them throughout the course of the show. Now, you may have seen this online this week because last night, Spencer Oliver was out and about in Ghana. I know. Amir Khan was running a show out there, and Spencer caught up with him throughout the course of the week to talk about Anthony Joshua and whether he should be given the luxury of skipping the queue.
Like Joshua can skip the queue. A name like Fury can be retired and skip the queue because they are big for boxing, and boxing needs names like them. And also, they've been there, they've done it, they've proven it as well with what they've done in the past. So you don't really take them for their last fight because you got knocked out in his last fight. You don't take them for that, but you take them for what they've done in their career and what they've done for boxing.
I love Amir and I love Spencer as well. So this is no slight on what they say. I just have a take where I would love boxing just to be judged on meritocracy. That's where I'm at. I think you've got to earn the right and earn the opportunities regardless of resume. I get it that maybe the rules of meritocracy don't necessarily apply to some people because of the commercial value that they bring to certain fights, Anthony Joshua being one of those. But at the moment, I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet. So tonight we've got Nanita Donaire. He's come out of 2-year kind of retirement off the back of back-to-back losses. He's fighting for a version of a world title. Manny Pacquiao in a few weeks' time, straight out of 4 years, is it, that he's been out?
That's knocked me sick, that one.
I know. Getting an opportunity to fight for the full WBC world title. And this conversation, even though it's not fact, just the conversation of Anthony Joshua being in the mix for maybe the Usyk-Dubois winner. I personally am against that. I think there's other guys that have absolutely earned the right. But I understand that boxing is a business, mate. Where do you stand?
The only reason I'd be okay with that is because he's only lost it to Usyk. And it's still the same sort of...
And to Dubois. Obviously, he lost his
Dubois, yeah, obviously, but he only lost the titles to Usyk, and Usyk still has them. This is the thing now, the fact that, like, Dubois was in... Usyk never lost the IBF belt.
No.
So, in my opinion, the champion is still Usyk, but it's been vacated. Dubois beating AJ warranted him being world champion for me, but it was still an interim title that he won, which then got upgraded once he vacated. Now, I can't be a hypocrite in saying that is not a world title because my brother's got an interim title, and if one of them champions vacates that WBO belt rather than fighting
he's a belt holder,
then he's a world champion.
Yeah,
and the fight that he had against Joshua Buatsi was very much worthy of being a world title fight. So it's not like sour grapes or anything bitter towards Dubois, but the fact that AJ lost to Usyk and lost clearly to Usyk both times, the fact that he might be due a shot or being spoken about being in the mix, as long as he has a win on his record before he does that, I'm okay with it. But you've got to go and get that win, and this is what we say.
Does it matter the level of the win?
It should be someone decent in those rankings for whatever belt you're fighting. If someone else in the top 10 of that governing body, that's how the rules go and that's how it works usually. But my brother Liam went to Spain to fight in Spain in a
he
fight.
Had to go and get a win
in
to
a
warrant
gym to be able to fight for the vacant WBO title should Canelo have vacated it, and I don't think he did in the end anyway. But you'd have to do it. You have to abide by the rules. But then all of a sudden the rules will be bent or completely forgotten about when someone like Manny Pacquiao wants to come out of retirement after however long he's been retired and gets a straight world title shot. And again, it's difficult to say. I'm not a fighter. I'm not planning on coming back and fighting for the world title. I'm not. It's not. I wouldn't be allowed to do that. But
if you were a fighter, let's say you were a fighter, right? And you're in the WBC rankings. You've been paying your sanctioning fees. You've been playing the game. All right. You've been going through. Every single time you have a fight, it's, this is a WBC international and this will boost your rankings and you're paying your 3%.
You're paying them 3% every single fight.
And it racks up and it racks up. And now all of a sudden, let's say you're top 5, right? Mario Barrios is defending his championship and he's got a voluntary. And then all of a sudden they fly a legend. Don't get me wrong, it's a legend who served the game, right? And absolutely, it's purely commercial, this. But just because he puts bums on seats, he's dragged in and jumps over you. You must be sat there thinking, just hang on a minute, man. What's crack here?
And just to add salt in the wounds, there's a rematch clause. And you've got to sit and wait. As I say, it's what does my head in and what winds me up the most about all of this isn't the titles, isn't the sanctioning fees, isn't the queue jumper, isn't this, and that's what we're talking about, the queue jumper, so we'll get back to that. What makes you think you can come back and compete at world title level when you're that old and you've retired for that long, you've been retired for that long, and you retired when it wasn't there anymore years ago, let's say 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah, fair.
You know, there's a saying in one of the Rocky movies, and I laugh my head off every time he goes, you haven't peaked yet. And it's like, if you still got this stuff knocking around the basement to think that you can come back and fight and compete at that level. I'm seeing Vladimir Klitschko talking about coming back.
Yeah.
You were done 5 years ago minimum. Like, what makes you think you can come back? When Mike Tyson was doing exhibitions, I'm fine with an exhibition. If Manny Pacquiao was to have an exhibition against a young current fighter, I'm fine with that as long as it's billed as that.
Yeah.
This is a potential
This is
world
the best
title
in the
fight
world.
against the best in the world, and it doesn't sit right with me. But the fact that these fighters coming back at the age that they're coming back, one of them's going to get hurt bad, and then every one of us or every one of them boxers will be thrown in. Oh, boxing's brutal. It's brutal enough. It's barbaric enough. It's a tough sport. It's hard. Your brain's not meant to be punched. Your head's not meant to be punched. Your hands are not meant to punch people. But they're doing it, and they're risking their lives doing it. Don't sort of make the odds even more against you.
You don't need to make it more dangerous.
You don't need to do it that dangerous. But then what is it? Is it financial reasons? Because that I can understand. If it is, go and earn a few quid. No one should struggle. Go and do it. But if you're well off, it's ego. And if it's ego or still a bit of ambition in there somewhere, what you've got, did all them world titles that you win not scratch the itch? You know what I mean? It's like, is it ego or is it financial? If it's financial, I'm fine with it.
My take, I have no problem with a fighter because, listen, you've been there, and I'm sure every now and again the little flame goes inside your belly and whatever, you think to yourself, you know what I mean?
Every time I watch the sparring in the gym, or I'm taking a spar with one of my fighters,
that's what you are.
Sparring, but then I remember what I felt like in my last fight, and I remember how I felt after some sessions when I'm vomiting in the corner and I'm feeling like, and I remember when I stand up and everything clicks now in my elbows and my knees and my back, and I make that noise like all men do of over 40 when you stand up. But
you can understand that as a fighter. You can understand the fire. You can understand the fire though still being there for fighters, and I've no problem with Manny Pacquiao wanting to fight. I've no problem with Nita Donaire or anybody wanting to come back and fight. My problem is when the sanctioning body then goes, sound, jump straight into the world title fight. That's where my problem is.
We see that all the time with sanctioning bodies. We see it with commissions. I've seen recently, and I don't think it was the board's decision. I think it was the Mexican boxing board decision. But a fight was pulled. Adam Azim's fight was cancelled because the fighter was in the sauna. Yet we see pictures and evidence of Chris Eubank and Conor Benn using saunas, and that fight goes ahead. And it's like, that was a call from a different organisation to say cancel our fights. I understand, I'm aware of how it's happened, but a lot of the problems we have with commissions, with sanctioning bodies, governing bodies, the WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO, California State Athletic Commission, Nevada, whatever one it might be, the problems that we have or the issues that we have is it's never consistent.
Yeah.
And all we're asking for as fans or boxers or license holders or just advocates for the sport, lovers of the sport, is to just keep everything consistent and just keep the same energy for that as that, keep the same rules as that for him, and don't change because of the fighter. Now I understand Anthony Joshua is a megastar, him in a fight rather than someone who is less unheard of, like a Gassiev or Michael Hunter or someone. Obviously it's going to sell more. Manny Pacquiao is going to put a lot more, generate a lot more fans.
These are two different
ticket sales.
Anthony Joshua is still an active guy, and he's still doing his thing, whereas Pacquiao's come from the cold, right? So they are two different situations, but kind of the same, because we're talking from a commercial point of view, getting an opportunity when it isn't necessarily warranted.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. If it's for financial reasons, you're on hard times, I'm fine with it, but go and have an exhibition. Go and fight against someone who was, just retired, let's say, and do it the right way in an exhibition where you're not going to get hurt, you don't have to jump the queue, and a couple of other young, hungry fighters who've paid the dues and paid the sanctioning fees, more importantly, have to wait now extra 6 to 8 months while you go and have their shot, and you're taking their shot. As I say, everyone should earn, and if that's the only way you know how to earn, but it isn't with Manny Pacquiao. But if you've done your money in, then you need to go and put food on the table. No problem with it, but do it in the right way. Don't be coming back to just jumping at the top, at the deep end of world boxing, fighting for the WBC world title.
So, are you circling all that back towards the Joshua conversation that Amir Khan was having there? You're in the camp of he's got to have at least one against the top contender in order to earn that shot to get straight back in, because obviously the resume and the profile does actually stack up from what he's achieved in the past.
His last 2 fights have been a loss against Usyk and then a loss against Dubois.
Yeah.
Both of them for world titles.
Well, world titles you're talking now. Obviously, before that he had the Hellenius and he's had the Ngannou and he's had all that type of stuff.
But the world titles, it's no shame in them in what he's lost, and coming off the Dubois loss, which was for the full belt, then there's no real shame in that. And if you've just lost the world title, your argument could be to the sanctioning bodies or to the governing bodies as well. Look, I've just fell short in that title, so I'm obviously capable enough to fight for this belt as well. But I think you should do that with a win on your record, and I'm not bothered who that's against, to be honest with you. I really don't care who that's against, but let's stick to the rules, what everyone else is sticking to, and let's have a bit of fairness across the board, as we've been saying. At least have the win on your record, so you're going into a fight for the world title. The rules are usually you can't fight for the world title on the back of a loss unless it's a rematch. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to try and find the opponent then for him next. Before we do, though, let's get to Lisa O'Sullivan. She's across the Gulf. What's going on, Lisa?
Well, as if it wasn't hard enough at Oakmont, the rain has arrived and there are warning signs around the course forecasting potential thunder and lightning. But play goes on for now. We've got a new leader as well. JJ Spawn has moved in front. Birdie on the first, bringing him level with overnight leader Sam Burns on 3 under for the tournament. Burns, though, dropped a shot on the second. Looking through a breakthrough, Spawn came close earlier this year as runner-up at the Players' Championship in Sawgrass. He's one of only 2 players under par for the tournament, so it is JJ Spawn who leads on 3 under.
US Open update on talkSPORT with Arnold Clark's Rewards Week. Save up to £1,000 on selected cars this week.
It's Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Paul Smith's alongside me. We'll be talking heavyweights for a good half an hour. Thank you very much for all your correspondence. Let's get into the conversation about Anthony Joshua. There's lots of this, lots of it going on talkSPORT. Lots of people talking about what next for Anthony Joshua. Obviously, you listen to his promoter speak. What I love about AJ is that he doesn't. He just keeps it nice and quiet, stays out the way, doesn't really say too much, and he'll do his talking when obviously the opportunity comes to fight. We're told that obviously he's had a little bit of surgery. It's going to be the back end of the year before we see him. Now, we've just been talking about jumping the queue, and we heard from Amir Khan talking about him possibly jumping the queue, Anthony Joshua, that is. And he also continued in that conversation about the prospect of certain fighters that Anthony Joshua could fight. One of them was Deontay Wilder. This is what he had to say.
I feel like they're just the keyboard warriors that would come out and just say something stupid like that. Because the thing is, and it is stupidity, when someone says something like that, you got two former world champions in the heavyweight division, the baddest men in the world, and now going against each other. And if you look at it, the style of fighting in that fight,
yeah,
mate, it just gels so well.
I'm with you.
Power, speed, movement. One guy's taller, one guy's very long rangey, one guy's stronger, one guy's not as strong. I mean, it ticks all the boxes. It's one of them fights that you don't know who's going to win.
It feels as well like a fight that kind of just needs to happen for this generation. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder. We've just been speaking about AJ getting a win before we can legitimately, I mean, listen, the business of boxing can work a certain way, but for us to sit here legitimately say Anthony Joshua's okay now to be going into a world title fight, we need that one win. Is it Deontay Wilder?
I said a while ago, even when Fury beat Wilder for the last time, I would still like to see AJ against Wilder. I'd still like to see AJ against Fury, even though there's nothing on the line no more because Usyk's out there on his own and Dubois now won a title. I would still pay to see AJ Fury next, and I would still go and see AJ against Wilder. And I just think it's a good fight. Listen, we always say about boxing or fights, you'll see a great fight with two lads boxing for the English title.
Yeah,
both at the same level.
Yeah,
and they'll knock 7 bells out of each other. They'll gel well, and it'll be a brilliant, entertaining fight. And you see the same at British level, Commonwealth level, European title level, and world level. As long as they're evenly matched, those fighters are evenly matched. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. I think Deontay Wilder has probably had the worst time of it recently. But then there's an argument that Joshua's had a bad time of it also with the way the Dubois fight went. But I would still watch that fight. You know, absolutely, I'd watch that fight.
Where are you at with Deontay Wilder? Because he fights in a couple of weeks, right? And I am praying that he is back doing the bronze bomber thing. But I don't know whether it's the retreats, doing the ayahuasca, or whatever he's been doing. It just seems to have taken some type of edge away from him. The fight against Zhang, the fight against Parker, he was very reluctant to pull the trigger, and we didn't even see the character throughout the course of the week, did we? He feels very different.
Listen, I'm probably guilty of being a bit harsh on Wilder, but I don't think he's been the same since the Fury fights, and I think they took a lot out of him, and vice versa. Probably took a lot out of Tyson as well.
Yeah.
Tough fights. He really gave everything he had. Wilder, you could see the hate and the anguish on his face when he lost, and the sadness on him when he lost. He looked like a beaten man, and I think that probably beat the last bit out of him. But
the way he came back after the second one to the third, I mean, the third performance was much better than the second time around.
But the way it ended, and
yeah, fair.
That again, it just might. And he put a lot of size on. He looked a lot bigger. He looked probably too big to what he fights. The way Amir's just been saying, then one's bigger than the other, one's stronger than the other, but one probably punches just as hard, if not harder, than the other. And that's Wilder, even though he's smaller, slimmer. Not skinnier, but he is, you know, but that obviously that lean, slim frame develops and generates a lot of power. He's explosive. I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think he is a bit strange, a bit on the way out, a bit wacky, a bit. I'm trying to find out the right way to say it. Where his mind's definitely probably not on boxing, in my opinion. I don't think he's thinking about boxing. I think he's thinking about earning, and I think he's thinking about making as much money as he can, using what he has left, and trying to just get every last little bit in. I don't think surely that there can be that desire there to become a world champion again in Deontay Wilder. But I don't know him, so I could be wrong. But from what I see as an observer, is someone who's probably just trying to get the last few readies in to then retire and be comfortable, and he's earned the right to be comfortable in what he's done in the past. But yeah, I agree. I just think there's something missing, and I think the age is definitely caught up with, and the hard career that he's had.
The fight, I think, for the majority of fans listening to this, for AJ, is Fury. That's what they want, yeah.
I would.
I think. I'm in as well. I think that's
Don't get me wrong, Adam. I'd love to have seen it 5 years ago.
I think all of us would, yeah.
But that's how boxing is, isn't it? We see these big fights sometimes. Not now, not recently, but we see most of these fights a little bit too late. And I think that's what we said at the start of the show with the Saudi injection of facilitating funding and being the mediator and all these things. We're starting to see these fights a little bit closer to the ripe time of picking.
Well, look at what we've experienced since they've come in. We've had 2 undisputed heavyweight championship fights with Fury and Usyk. We've had the 2 with Beterbiev Bivol. Yeah. We're obviously getting the thing with Canelo and Crawford. This is a completely different time than what we were experiencing 5 years ago. Completely different. And I would imagine that if they would have come in earlier, we'd have already seen these fights that we're currently having a little bit of a chat about. What is your understanding as to where Tyson's currently at? Do you think that you will see him fight again? And that kind of leads me on to where I want AJ to be going.
Yeah. Well, when he retired, I thought we'll probably see him. I thought we'll probably see him again. I think he's just manoeuvring to try and get a good payday, which... Every credit to him for doing it. I would do the same. You've got to do the same. You've got to get what you're worth. And the way he mentions like Dick Turpin and the way he said it, what he said when he retired, alluded to that. And I thought, well, he mustn't be happy with the offer that he's got for a future fight or an AJ fight. And he's just thought, well, you know what? I'd rather keep me respect or dignity or whatever. And I'm done. See you later. And then he'll sit there waiting for the phone to ring, and it will ring because everyone wants to see it. And he's Tyson Fury, and he's in that right. But as time's going by a little bit, he might just think, you know what, I'm done. And only he knows, and the closest people to him know whether he's still got it. Now, I felt the Ngannou fight, I saw a lot of signs of aging in that, and that's no disrespect to him whatsoever. It's going to happen. It beats everyone. It catches up with us all. Age beats a lot of us, and as a fighter, you notice sometimes on the night, and after a round or two's gone, you think, I'm done. And only you really know. Now, I saw a few signs of that, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe he's just thinking, now, you know what? I've earned plenty. I've seen this. There's a list around of all the highest earning fighters last year, and I think he's number 2 or 3 or something. Yeah. And, you know, unbelievable amounts. I think I've read somewhere like $147 million or something. Now, they're never on the money, you know what I mean? Mine says I'm worth a right few quid. I wish it was, you know what I mean? If you Google the old net worth or something, what comes up, someone sent me one sometime when I was fighting, and I was like, I wish I did. But his will be a bit exaggerated, but he's earned a lot of money, and he never has to get out of bed again. So I think he may be in that frame of mind. But as I say, I know him, but I don't know him inside out to know that. Okay, so if that doesn't materialise for Anthony, and we want that to be Anthony Joshua's fight, so if that doesn't materialise, do we then need Deontay Wilder to be devastating in 2 weeks' time? And if he is devastating in 2 weeks' time, do you then just go straight full all in, regardless of what Fury's doing, and try and book Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder? I think for Joshua, it's hard to say because I don't think Wilder's relatively relevant in these conversations. I think we want to see Fury and AJ.
Yeah.
But as a close second, I would watch that. But I don't think that is possibly in Wilder's mind. Again, I don't know. I'm probably just, I'm for a fact, I'm just speculating on what I assume he'll be thinking. But I think he'd just be wanting to cash in as quick as he can and then get out. And if he has a couple of small fights here or there or lesser fights, then...
But Joshua earns a lot of money for him.
100%. But does he think he can beat Joshua based on what he's had in the past? That's the thing. But then there's an argument, does Joshua think he can beat Wilder? So that's why I'm saying at this stage in the careers, it's still a good fight, and it's fights that I would watch. Like the curiosity would the curiosity would kill me if I didn't watch them fights. I would want to watch the Fury one especially, even now.
Well, it pulls the mainstream in, and anything that pulls the mainstream in is absolutely the fights that boxing needs. I know that,
and the easy way around it is just say, "There's a lump of money for you. There's a lump of. Do you just want the fight? You know, there it is. Sign the contract. Get in camp. Get training. Get as fit as you can be. Let's put a spectacle on. Give everything you've got, and it's a mega fight ticked off. A fight that essentially ticked off, albeit a little bit too late.
Yeah. If none of those materialise, let's say Wilder doesn't look great in 2 weeks' time, and we're like, oh, that's that done. Fury doesn't come back. Anthony Joshua. I mean, if you're watching us on our talkSPORT YouTube channel, he was in Ghana last night. He was with the guys last night, addressing the crowd there. We know that he's had a little bit of surgery. His promoter's saying that he's going to be coming back at the end of the year, and maybe he's going to have 3 fights. So what are they? I mean, I can see if he's successful in the first one, I can see what maybe 2 and 3 might be. But what is the first one that you have in order to get to Dubois, in order to get to Usyk?
I've just unlocked my phone again to look at this top 20 on BoxRec, and it's
what is it? What's
it's
the
obviously
fight?
there, but I don't know, because a lot of them are step downs, aren't they? You know, you can't see him surely fight Chisora. I saw Chisora, or I saw a post of someone saying Chisora's maybe asking for that fight. I don't listen. Stranger things have happened, as we say. I don't think he'd go anywhere near someone like a Coley. I don't think that would be a fight that would sell anywhere.
No.
Wardley obviously being
Does
on Queensberry,
this work?
I can't see that happening.
Does this work mainly for the opponent? Joseph Parker rematch.
I've seen that being mentioned. Obviously, I've seen
Works
that
for Joseph Parker to try and get one back, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly works for Parker. And he's obviously coming off the back of the good win that he had over there with Bacoli. But
yeah, I think it's a tough task for Anthony Joshua.
I'm just mentioning Brits, obviously, you know, and obviously I don't think that's the route that Matthew Medier and Anthony Joshua and the team will probably be looking at. But as you say, where did he go? You know, I wouldn't like to be the one that picks out of them. Do you try and go shoot up against someone Caballel who's above you? I wouldn't really go there. You know, then do you come to Dylan White's now tied up, so you can't fight him again. And then from there on, Ergovic maybe. You know, it's not really a fight that would look good, but then on Ergovic's last performance, it probably would. Germany he would have a right go.
Well, he's matched up with David Adelaide on this.
Yeah, on the that's right.
Toma undercard, isn't it?
Toma, yeah, and listen, as you say, does he come through that? You know, it's a good match for Ergovic, but Adelaide, obviously, after the Jamie TKV one, he'd be very confident in his power in that fight. It's a good match. I think it's a good matchup.
If you're obviously your brother's in the situation right now, and I want to ask you the same question in a minute for him, but on the heavyweights, you've got Parker who's an interim, you've got Caballel who's an interim, you've got Wardley as an interim. Frank Warren was on talkSPORT earlier on this week, and he was talking about Parker being out again in September, and the WBO mandatory will be the one that is called first off the back of the Usyk Dubois. Once all that's finished, it might not necessarily get them, because there might be a rematch in that, but he will get a shot at the WBO title if that becomes vacant. If you're Joseph Parker, what level of opponent do you fight in September?
I wouldn't want to fight anyone.
You just sit and wait.
Not if I'm a young 25, 26-year-old fella, then I'll fight anyone, obviously, as you do. But when you're getting up to the age Joseph Parker's had, the fights that he's had, you know, he hasn't really got to take that risk. He's in a good position, sitting in a nice position. The same, like that's what you mentioned about me brother Callum. He's interim champion. Do you go into the fight with Benavidez as a challenger, or do you wait, have a defence of that belt? That belt gets upgraded, then you go into that fight as a champion yourself. And for Parker, does he want to take the risk of losing that interim status? Because whatever happens, I think if Usyk wins, which I think he will, but again, could be wrong. If he wins, I can see him retiring in the ring and being done. I don't know if he's going to go for one more, if he's actually going to stick to what he said, but I can't see any other sort of challenge for Usyk out there. So if them belts are then given up and fragmented, the interim champions are going to snap them up immediately and become full champion and be upgraded to full champion. Do you want to risk that by fighting, you know, someone really tough or durable or very dangerous?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Joseph Parker, because I think he's earned the right to be fighting for world titles, as Ajit Caballel. We'll find out, no doubt, in the next couple of months as that all plays out. Stick with us, we're talking Smith Brothers next. There's a lot of them, so it might go on for a bit. So we'll do that next on talkSPORT. It's Friday night on talkSPORT. We're still going to be talking about Keyshawn Davis. I know that a lot of people want to talk about him from last week. He had an absolute shocker, didn't he? And also, as well as that, you may have seen on social media this week, Turkey LL Sheikh's comments about no more Tom and Jerry fights. I kind of like that phrase. No more Tom and Jerry fights. We'll get a few thoughts on that a little bit later on. Right now, though, let's get the latest with the Smith brothers, shall we? You've just been kind of alluding to Callum's situation there. Last time out, absolutely fantastic. He's now put himself in a real prime position. I know there was a little bit of a waiting period with Mr. Batsebiev and Mr. Bivol. And they're probably going to go part 3. I don't know what the situation is with that, but that maybe is where they were going. Where's his head at? Because there are a couple of fights in the division that, from a fan's point of view, are extremely attractive. You mentioned Benavidez there a moment or two ago, and there's a couple of others that you could probably sprinkle in. But he's also at that stage of his career where he's been there, done it, and got the T-shirt in lower weight divisions. It's a massive opportunity to become a multi-weight world champion. And not only that, maybe there might be a Ring Magazine belt floating around as well that he can get his hands on once again. So where's his head at? What's he want to do? Is he looking to be active again this year? Is he looking to get out, or is he looking to just, let's see where the landscape is with Baterbia and Bivol before I make my decision?
No, he definitely wants to get out, and I don't know if he's looking at September. But he's had a couple of chats, a couple of offers, a couple of conversations where he's come. The thing with Callum, he's in London tonight, he's going on a night out, and I was laughing with him today. I said, nice one for the invite. And he laughed and he went, just do what Liam's done and just turn up anyway and come out anyway. And I was like, nah, I'm all right, thanks, I'm working in here, I'm over at talkSPORT. He's the most quiet, sort of secretive person, but not secretive, if you know what I mean. He gets told something, it's great news, and he won't tell anyone, he just keeps it to himself. He'd rather not have the conversation because he's that quiet. So you find things out later down the line. He goes, he didn't tell me, I've just sat and had my breakfast with him, he didn't say 2 words to me. He sits on the next table to me in the coffee shop, has his food.
Yeah.
I go, see you in a bit, gives a shout later, I go, see you later.
You're reading it on social media.
I'm reading on social media. I didn't think I've just sat and had my breakfast with you, and he's just so quiet, but then he'll call us and like, need to have a little chat with you if you can, and here's what's being mentioned, what do you think, what's your opinion on it? And the other 3 brothers will have a chat with him, and as Liam does and Stephen used to do and I used to do, you know, with the sort of closest people to each other to give a little bit of advice, and the advice what you're getting is from a good place, from someone exactly the same or similar to you. So obviously nothing's done, like I saw the other fella's manager, Yard's manager, saying it was a done deal or something. It was news to Callum. I think Callum did an interview saying there's absolutely nothing done, nothing agreed, nothing relatively being spoken about. So I don't think that fight will happen. But this is what I'm saying. Like, Callum's self-managed. He's his own manager. He does all his own negotiating, his own talking, and he's so quiet anyway. So it might take a bit of time. But at the moment, there's obviously talks of Benavidez, and there's talks of possibly having a defence of his interim title in the autumn, which will then set up obviously a future fight, whether it be for the full title, should that be vacated, once the winner out of Baterbiev and Bivol for the 3rd fight. What
if an offer for the Netflix show comes along to be on that card against a Benavidez or something like that? It's probably unlikely, given the history of Canelo with Benavidez and that team and what have you. But an opportunity like that,
again, it's entirely up to Callum. I'm not ruling anything out for him because I can't speak for him.
And of course.
Although I'm his elder brother, I certainly don't speak for him. You know, he speaks for himself. He's a very clever, intelligent, and astute person. He speaks really well, even though he doesn't do it much. But when he does speak, his opinion on boxing, his knowledge on boxing is great. And again, I'm training fighters, and the girl I train, Liv, who's just about to turn pro, she was in the ring the other day doing some pads, and he jumps in the ring and he's like, look, try and throw your body shot this way. And I'm laughing, thinking about Liv, a young top amateur 8-time national champion, just turning pro, getting advice off one of the best body punchers in the world at the moment, and certainly in this country, he really knows how to whip them body shots in, but he's given a technical advice, and he's learned in the same place that she learned in the Rotunda anyway. His knowledge and his brain on things like that is quality, as is Liam Stevens, and without being big-headed, you know, we all knew our game. But I remember being in the gym with Billy Graham, and it wasn't just Billy where I was there. Obviously Ricky Hatton was there, but then Ricky would stop and say, Smig, when you're throwing your shot, try and put your foot there, whip it in. That advice from fellow fighters who have done it is priceless. but they've got to know what they're talking about as well.
Of course.
And there's other boxers out there who don't really like boxing, don't really like the technical elements of it. They can just fight, and that's how they earn money. But Callum's a student of it, and he makes his decisions based on what he thinks, what he feels, and what he asks his family and the people close to him. He's got a good team there who do the negotiating for him, and I'm sure they'll find the best thing there for him. But people just assume that I know everything about him, and what I'm trying to get at,
I get it.
The way is, like, I actually don't know myself just yet. I will only know what he tells me and when he tells me, and sometimes I'll see something on social media before he actually tells me, and I'll laugh and joke about it with him and say, like, I've just sat in there with you and you knew, and he's got his head in his Wordle or his connections or his Sudoku or something. He's just that quiet, honestly.
Where's Liam's head at right now?
He's done a couple of interviews saying, if an offer is to come in, it's got to be a quick offer, and he might think about it, maybe having one last one. But I think it will and is one last one if that's the case. I don't know, and I can't see it really after the last performance and the last fight that he had, and it's just one of them things where the end of his career has become the worst part of his career because of his body not holding out, and
it happens,
it happens. It catches up with everyone. And the first loss to Eubank, I knew it wasn't age, and I think he knows deep down it wasn't age, and we knew that, and that's why everyone's fine with him going again and having another go again. If you can get your body right, have a good camp, get in the ring and fight, and you've still got it there, then no problem, because it wasn't age. It was just a really horrendous camp and a really bad injury in the last fight. Only he'll know truly how he feels, whether there was signs of age, but it's something that he will have to discuss and sit down and decide what he wants to do going forward. But it's a strange thing, the boxing, and it's a strange sort of, they say an athlete dies twice. I'm not talking about Liam here, I'm talking about everyone. And I know when I used to bump into people when I just first retired, I didn't announce my retirement for the year, and I wanted to make sure I got out of shape, which wasn't hard to do, because as soon as I retired, I wanted to have the coffee, the cake, have a few drinks here and there, eat the meals that I couldn't have, do whatever I used to do, not go near the gym. Didn't want to go near any gym. I still don't half the time. It was always a job to me, but I didn't want that phone call to come in as a young prospect here. Come, what you reckon? A couple of $100,000 there, a few $100 for you. Do you want to come and fight him? And then it's so hard to say no to, because you've got to earn money. And that's how you earn money, by fighting. But if you're not in a position to fight, which I wasn't, then they said to me straight, "You're not fighting again. That's it. Did you feel your age in your last fight?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. I certainly did. I could see the shot. I just couldn't pull the trigger on it." And that's age. So they wouldn't have let me fight anyway, even if I wanted to. My three brothers. So
yeah,
that's how it was for me. But again,
so you're saying that you knew in the fight. So
I found
not
out
in the gym or anything like that. You knew in the fight.
And that's how it is in boxing. I've spoken to a couple of footballers saying when you age in football, maybe you find out gradually over the season, or over 10 games, or over 5 games even. In fighting, in boxing, you find out in the ring on the night.
Okay.
And it's okay. I'm not here. It's not there no more. But you find out on the night. It's never really in the camp. There might be signs in the camp, but it's on the night. Now, I'm not saying this about Liam. I'm saying about me. What got me the most was when you're bumping into people, even strangers that you don't know. And it's all right, Paul, what are you up to now? And you're like, no, I'm retired. What are you doing though? I'm going for a coffee. I'm retired, but you're only 34, which I was. And it's just it's so weird, and I can laugh about it now. I'm in a totally different place and a totally different person now. I'm not that person no more, but at the time, the ego's there fighting you, and it's like, I'm a fighter, I'm a boxer. I've been a boxer since I was 11 years of age, or 9 years of age, but I've been boxing since I was 11. And anytime anyone speaks to you and asks you what you're doing, it's, I'm boxing, I'm fighting this, take that. And what are you up to now? It's like, I'm going to school, I'm going to get my little girl from school, or pick my lad up from school, or I'm going home. And
how difficult is it to come to terms with the new identity?
So difficult. One of the worst times of my life, retiring. Probably the worst time of my life, retiring. I can say that now, and I don't need to play the violin now. I don't need to really look back. I don't really talk about it much now, because, as I say, I'm not that person no more. But it took a lot of hard work to not be that person no more. But at the time when you retire, and I used to see fighters talking about depression and think, like, you had a great career. Like, why are you depressed? Didn't understand it. Like, I used to be of the attitude of, if you're depressed, you get stuck into something and you won't be, but it's not the case. And then you realise when you retire, and that old saying, I heard it long after I'd been through all of that. The athlete dies twice. I'd never really heard of that, and it makes so much sense. And when I heard it, I think it was Tasha Jones that told me, without name dropping, and it just made a lot of sense when I heard it. And it was recently when she was when she lost the last fight to Lauren Price. And it's so true. You're saying you have to. The athlete dies, but the person's still there. But you've been the athlete all your life, and that's all you are. And in your mind, that's all you are. And when you're a boxer or a fighter, or even maybe a sportsman, a sportswoman, I suppose the best way to storm an island is to burn the boats. There is no plan B. You can't have a plan B. If you're having a plan B, you're admitting plan A is not going to work, so you're not going to give 100% to being the best fighter or athlete that you can be, and that's how every boxer is. Like
that must be incredibly tough, man. Incredibly tough to deal with from a mental point of view.
You've got to do it, but then the minute you retire and that's taken away from you and you can't go and fight no more and you can't be the fighter no more, it's like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I used to think I can't wait to drive home and just stop at that chippy and get something to drive home. I don't go there no more. I've never done it. Or I can't wait to have a bottle of lager with my tea. I don't drink. I haven't drank for now 3 years. I don't drink no more. It's just not for me. I don't like it. I don't remember the last time I had a good night being drunk or drinking. For me, I just don't like it no more, so I've given it up. But all the things that I was looking forward to when I was still fighting, it's not really anything worth looking forward to. Just to have that little bit of freedom to be able to eat what you want or go to the party at the weekend. I go to parties or events now, and I can't wait to get home, get on the couch, have a cup of tea, and just be at home. I laugh, and my missus is the same, thankfully. So I'm not deemed as boring, but I can't wait to leave and get home and get on the couch.
Is it hard to accept that the buzz of having your hand raised when you win a British title, having your hand raised in a certain fight, is it hard to come to terms that ain't going to happen anymore?
Yeah, but again, I've come to terms with it now. It's not going to happen no more, but I'm watching my lad do it. I'm watching my lad achieve his dreams.
So vicariously you can get it.
I'm still getting to see my brothers fight on the biggest stage and win, and I'm still involved with it, and I'm managing fighters now and they're getting to win, and I'm sharing that with them, and I'm training fighters now, and I'll never be one of them idiot trainers who's living through the fighter or who's having the career through the fighter. I've had my career. I want to help these fighters get there now, and I'm not being nasty or horrible to them, but I see too many of them at the moment, and
it's all about
in the past 15-20 years, and it's all about the training. Like, it's the fighter, and I've had my career to be able to just stay in the back. You know, there's an old saying on Jerry Maguire, the hand on the end of the shoulder, that's my hand. That's all I want seeing. You know, it's about the fighters. But watching the sparring yesterday, and one of the lads who's in the gym, just a keep fit lad, who's a nice lad, he said, "Do you miss it, Paul?" And I was like, every day. I miss it every day. I miss it every time I see sparring. I used to love the sparring. I used to love the mental side of knocking 7 bells out of each other and trying to beat your mate and then going and having a cup of tea with them, or your brother, by the way. My brother as well, and me good mates, and you have a cup of tea and a bit of food after. You're talking about how you were able to land a shot against me, what I didn't know was coming, and you were good before, and or vice versa, and that side I'll always miss. But the camaraderie and the friendship that you get through boxing, that will always be missed, and I'm sure every fighter's the same. You'll always miss being top of the bill or fighting in an arena, or having people admire and respect you for something that you can do really well, that a lot of people without sounding bigger couldn't, but you've worked really hard at it, and that's great. And then it goes, and that is what gets tough. I understand why people don't want to let it go, but you have to sometimes.
Stick with us. We're going to get stuck into everything that happened with Keyshawn Davis, and I know that Paul just mentioned Natasha Jonas there a moment or two ago. We're going to celebrate her MBE. Congratulations to her. We'll get stuck into that in a moment as well. But first and foremost, what's going on in the golf, Lisa O'Sullivan?
Well, the rain's gone for now in Pennsylvania, but pretty dark still over Oakmont Country Club, probably reflecting the mood of many of those players who've suffered over the last 3 days. We've just seen Scotland's Bob McIntyre bogey the last. It was a 10-foot putt for par. A bit of a disappointing finish to his round. He finishes +3 though, so that's still very much in the running, just outside the top 10. And I was going to say there were 3 players under par for the tournament, but Tristan Lawrence has just dropped a shot. He joined the club with a birdie on the 6th and has dropped a shot on the 7th, so is back to level par for the tournament. It means he is 3 off the lead, which is held once again by JJ Spawn. He sunk a birdie to go solo in front again through 4 on his 3rd round.
US Open update on talkSPORT with Arnold Clark's Rewards Week. It's the best week to buy a car.
It's Fight Night on talkSPORT. The nightmare in Norfolk last week. Listen, I've got massive egg on my face with this because on the build-up to the fight, I'm waxing lyrical to all our audience saying, hey, Keyshawn Davis, he's the next one. He's going to be the next big star. We're going to talk big stars, actually, coming up. But I was giving it the big one. Keyshawn Davis, yes, all right. He fell short at the Olympics, but it's a silver medal. He's going to turn it into the pros and he's going to be the guy. And I think he's been match-made brilliantly. He's shown up. He's performed. He's getting better and better and better. And I was telling everybody in the show last week, Paul, make sure you're tuning into Keyshawn. And then he misses the scales, first and foremost, loses his championship belt on the scales by 4.3 pounds. Didn't really show any kind of remorse about that scenario. It was like, yeah, whatever. He then went on to fail to negotiate a settlement to preserve his purse and obviously put right everything with De Los Santos. And then he gets into an altercation post-event with Nahir Albright. Albright was the guy that beat Keyshawn's younger brother earlier on in the night. It's when you talk about a PR disaster, last week was the ultimate PR disaster for one of the brightest stars in boxing.
Yeah, again, back to my son. I didn't watch any of it, and I got up the next day, and my son's like, "Do you see him? He had a bleep of a night in." He said that he lost on the scales, 4 pounds over. Didn't get to fight. His brother then got beat in the ring, and then he got nicked after it for fighting. I was like, "You're joking!" And then I sat down and read it all, watched the replays of the scrapping and all that. The weight, I'm not just trying to sort of say it because I've done it. I failed the weight by that amount. I was a super middle / light heavy for that at a catch.
It was against Andre, wasn't it?
Against Andre Ward on the biggest stage of all. He's a lightweight, failing it by that much, so it's a massive
big percentage
miscalculation of a percentage of body weight for him. 135 pounds is it? So percentage wise, it's a lot higher than a percentage of someone at light heavyweight, super middleweight, let's say. But he's obviously trained for that fight. I don't think he's had any injuries that have been spoken about. So it's just a huge miscalculation. He's got something wrong. It doesn't mean he's sort of not fit or hasn't been putting the work in the gym. He's just miscalculated that wrong. And the way fighters do the weight nowadays, and again, we can open up a big can of worms with sort of check weighs and the stuff that's been spoken about recently, and hydration, dehydration, IV drips, all things like that. But making weight is a bit of an art also, that you can do it so easy. And the MMA lads have got a lot to sort of, or we boxers and boxing have got a lot to thank the MMA lads for, because they've showed us how to make weight a lot safer by manipulating a bit of fluid rather than stopping your fluids a week before the fight, like the old amateur way in Britain or in the States maybe used to be, where the coaches are saying to you, you've got to be within 2 pounds of your body weight 2 weeks before the fight. That's not right. You can lose safely, probably. I'm not a scientist, I'm not an expert, I'm not a nutritionist as such, but if you just have a normal session in the gym with an extra layer of clothing on, or another t-shirt or a jumper on, or a sweatshirt in the gym, you're probably going to lose about 4 pounds, 5 pounds very healthily, and you're still fully hydrated. So you've got that much weight in you. That's 2 kilo, let's say. That's 2 litres of water. Yeah, what you will lose in the gym, but then you can easily put it back into yourself. But these check weighs sometimes are happening for the governing bodies and the sanctioning bodies as well. Like the WBC have one, don't they? I think it's got to be within 5% of your body weight within a certain time. Now that's quite safe, but the week of the fight, I don't agree with check weighs, and for the simple reason that you're going to have to dehydrate yourself to do the check weight. Then fill the bucket back up and then empty it again. You can only do it once. You can only empty a bucket once.
But everybody operates differently.
Yeah.
So therefore, you might be a gradual guy. You might do me 1 pound a day for 7 days and then you're sweet.
Yeah.
I might not be that guy. I might be the guy that it comes off either quicker, slower, whatever it may be. So, like you say, all these professional teams now, they've all got, they should have strength and conditioning people. They should have nutritionists.
At that
people.
level, they definitely should. Yeah.
And that science should be applied to the. This is the thing. I think there's a lot of attitudes towards it that are still archaic, whereas now there's a lot new, brand spanking new science out there. You just been mentioning MMA. Yeah. It's changing all the time, constantly changing all the time. People are doing it in a different way,
and they're healthier. Like a little funny story, but we have a laugh like our Liam called a fat greasy bleep. That was what he called me, because I put a bit of sweat gear on night before one of the weigh-ins. Done 15 minutes on the treadmill walking, 15 minutes jogging, 15 minutes just touching the pads nice and light, and 15 minutes of shadow boxing. Got undressed, got a shower, got on the scales, and I'd lost 8 pounds. That's just fluid.
Pure water.
Because I was fully hydrated, fluid, safe, easy to do, because it wasn't much hard work. Just an hour in a hot suit, being a bit hotter than what you normally are, and it falls off. You see fighters now where they're going in a hot bath, and it's not really hot, but they're just doing it slowly, gradually, and over an hour period they'll lose a lot of weight and fluid weight, get on the scales, get off, and they haven't damaged themselves. They haven't harmed themselves. It hasn't been taxing on the body. It's just been a little bit warmer than what they used to. Saunas, I don't necessarily agree with saunas. There's obviously been a lot of debate recently because it's obviously a lot of heat on your head as well. When you're in a bath, your head's not in the water. And again, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know this categorically, but obviously I would avoid saunas if you could. But hot baths, fine. A little shake out with a hot suit on, fine, absolutely. But how else are you going to lose the weight? This is where I don't understand where some of the people who are making the rules about it is. There's only so many ways you can lose weight, and you can't just go for a walk and you're going to lose 3 or 4 pounds. And fighters aren't like they used to be in the day where they used to weigh in on the day, and you had to be within a certain percentage of your weight all the time. Fighters are boiling themselves down to get to that weight because they have a big advantage the next day when they're in the ring. And the fella we started talking about at the start of the show, Catterall was and is always one of the best at doing that. He's a different person on fight night to what he is in the weigh-in. Now, for Keyshawn Davis to get it so wrong, something must have happened somewhere. Whether he's hit a wall the night before and all of a sudden now, when I said I used to lose that much weight, I remember the night before the world fight, I did the same workout, the same stuff I normally do, and I lost 2 pounds, and it wasn't 6 or 7 like it should have been. It was 2 pounds, and that was it. And panic station starts, and then you just behind it and you messed up. That's it. I don't know whether he's done this. We'll find out. I'm sure he'll speak about it in future when his head's a little bit in a better space after all the stuff that went wrong for him. But something's gone wrong somewhere, whether it's just been a complete miscalculation and then he's just given and just thought, you know what, I'm not doing it because I want to still fight. I'm not weakening myself. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I failed the weight, and that's it. The fact that there was no compensation agreed either says that something's happened, but only he knows, and we'll find out.
Yeah, listen, I'm fully supportive of the opposing team not taking the fight given everything that was going on. But he's obviously been overlooked now as De Los Santos for a world title, because I think the WBO this week called Abdullah Mason and Sam Noakes as for that vacant
it's
title.
A good opportunity for Sam Noakes. Mega
opportunity for him. Who knows? That might end up on the Netflix show. You never know. It'll go to purse bids anyway. Top Rank involved, Queensbury involved, and hopefully there's a few quid for both of those guys to take that on, because I think that's a fantastic fight between those two lads. We'll talk Turkey Al Sheikh and his comments about no more Tom and Jerry fights next. Don't go anywhere. Right, coming up in the final hour of the show, we're going to be speaking to Lewis Thompson, who's going to give us a little bit of an insight into all the MMA that's going on tonight. And we'll also be looking ahead to UFC 317 out in Las Vegas. Should be an absolute cracker. Who is boxing's next superstar? Is it Moses Atama? We've been speaking about him a lot tonight, haven't we? Get involved with that. We'll talk about it in the next 15 minutes. And we'll finish the show off by looking ahead to next week as Galal Yafai is back in action in Birmingham on a card that's got some really interesting knocks, including one for Peter McGrail. We'll get stuck into that a little bit later on. If you want to get involved, you can. 03717 22 33 44. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT. Now then, social media plays a massive part in fight sports these days, whether it's making fights, things that fighters want to say, getting them closer to their fan base, or if it's a promoter just wanting to communicate with the fans out there and let them know what's going on. I am sure that you have seen the announcement this week, which we spoke about a little earlier on. Canelo, Crawford, Las Vegas, Netflix, all that. Absolutely brilliant. I think every single fight fan is so excited about seeing that on September the 13th. And the man behind that, Turki Al-Sheikh, was on social media making a few comments this week about various things, and one of his tweets has actually raised a few eyebrows with a few fight fans, and the tweet went like this. I will quote it directly. "From this point on, I don't want to see any more Tom and Jerry type boxing matches where one fighter is running around the ring and the other is chasing him. We can no longer support these kind of fights with Riyadh Season and the ring. We want to support fighters who leave it all in the ring and fight with heart and pride." Now, that's obviously from Turki Al-Sheikh's X accounts. Now, even though I read that and I sit there as a fan and I get excited and the blood starts pumping around my body going, yes, I want Gatti Ward every single time I switch the television on, Mr. Turki Al-Sheikh, absolutely. There is a part of me where I think to myself, well, this isn't fight, this isn't knockouts, this is boxing. There is a sweet science. There are many different styles. There are many different ways to skin a cat. And I understand what he's saying. And maybe the frustration has come, I think in particular, maybe from the Canelo-Williams skull fight, because that was a fight that really didn't entertain the fight fans. And I understand Devin Haney's performance out in Times Square might also be part of this as well. But there's many Blackfoot fighters that I would pay a lot of money to go and watch. They don't necessarily go toe-to-toe and dig the toes in and have it, like Mexican style, but it's entertaining.
But yeah, exactly. Listen, I think, obviously, it's probably a little bit of mistranslation. I think he means if one fighter's not there wanting to win, it's a difference in boxing on the back foot. You can still want to win and try your best to win, but if you're boxing, he wasn't interested in winning, I think, Skull. I think he just wanted to sort of survive and go the distance, and I think that's probably what it's aimed at. But some unbelievable fighters of the past, brilliant back foot fighters and box on the back foot. It's a chess match. But listen, what we said earlier on about Beterbiev Bivol, it wasn't it was so exciting because of what was at stake and what could happen anytime. Maybe Beterbiev more so than Bivol would have landed because he's a devastating puncher. But it was a little bit bull matador as well, also. And then every now and then Bivol would attack and engage and lead off the way he does. But that for me was one of the best fights in a while because of the magnitude of it and the skill and the differences between both fighters being minimal. You know what I mean? There's literally a cigarette paper between them. They were that good, and it was that good a fight. So I think it just means fighters have got to want to win and want to be there to leave it all on the line and fight with pride. But I don't think he's ruling out completely, although it sounds that way sometimes, like good quality top-notch boxing, because some of the fighters like that, listen, I've said before, I think Canelo and Crawford could be one of those fights where it's going to be a bit of a chess match and they're going to be feeling each other out, having a look at each other, and it will be very small margins again.
Yeah. Listen, I understand the reaction from the fans when they see, obviously, I mean, I think it's a great phrase, the Tom and Jerry type boxing matches. I think that's absolutely super.
Tom and Jerry. It is, as he said, that's it, cat chasing the mouse. Yeah. My old amateur coach used to call me the woman. He used to shout Thomas at me whenever I walk in the gym because the woman had a big backside. He used to say I had one. That's what he used to call me in the gym. He used to shout Thomas to me, the one with the mop.
Yeah. You only ever saw the bottom half around the mop, didn't you? You never saw the rest. Listen, that line is obviously going to raise eyebrows and create debate, and that's why we're talking about it tonight. All, from my point of view, all that he can do, Turki Al-Sheikh, all Frank Warren can do, all Eddie Hearn can do, Dana White, whoever's promoting these boxing events, all they can do is make the fight. That's it. Make the fight that us as fans are sat here going, phew, I need a ticket for that, or I'm definitely staying in on a Saturday night to be watching that. That's all they can do. The rest comes down to the boxers, as you've just kind of highlighted there. With all due respect, I would have been able to say pre-event that Canelo-Williams Skull wouldn't have been a great fight. Whereas Beterbiev-Bivol, we've been talking about it for the best part of 3-4 years, haven't we, of trying to get that fight on. We got it, and we got two of them, and they were both brilliant, weren't they? Definitely. And that's why we're sat here. I know that it affects other fighters in the division, but I'm sat here going, go again, because it was that good. Yeah. Same with Usyk Fury, and Canelo Crawford will be good. Okay, it might only appeal to the hardcore audience.
Oh no, it 100% will be good. No matter what, it's not going to be a boring fight, a stinker. It's not going to be a lot of holding in it. It's going to be a quality top level fight, and I think no matter what happens, they will always gel and be good. Whether it be a chess match, it's certainly not going to be Tom and Jerry type fight to quote there. It's no, not at all. It's going to be one of them good fights. But we've seen fights in the past where one fighter won't want to engage, and it might look like he's not trying to win, but he's not. Floyd Mayweather, let's say, early on, I'm not going to engage just to put a show on with him. I'm going to box his head off. I'm going to make him come to me. He's going to come to me. He's going to come over me. I'm going to pick him off and make him look silly. There's been so many fighters, far too many to mention, who box on the back foot, and it can be deemed as negative. And if it takes two to tango, if the fighter in the blue corner doesn't want to engage the boxer in the red corner, then it's a boring fight. The crowd are going to be booing him. We've seen that plenty of times. But it takes two to tango, and I think if one of them is coming non-stop, I've got no problem with another boxer going on the back foot and trying to outsmart him.
Oh, absolutely.
Typical bull matador. And some of the best fights I've ever seen have been that type where it's been bull matador, even in the amateurs. I remember some in the senior ABAs in Liverpool where young, stocky, come forward fighters trying to beat a top, tall, rangy boxer.
Getting the red box off.
And it's a brilliant fight, and it's great to watch because you know that they might catch them any time.
And this is the point that I'm making. From a promoter's point of view, just make the great fight.
Yeah,
that's it. You don't have to be
that's all he can do. I think what he's saying there, obviously, Teki Al-Ashik is that, you know, he wants to see great fights, but it's not his fault if it's not a great fight.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean? As you're saying, all he can do is put it on, promote it, get as many eyes on it, as many tickets sold, as many people watching it, make the event unbelievable, which a lot of these Riyadh season shows and Ring Magazine shows have been and will be. But if the fighters don't deliver, it's not his fault. It's not the promoter's fault. It's not the manager's fault. That's down to the fighters.
But 9 times out of 10, when you put the best guy against the best guy, you're going to get something.
Deliver, yeah.
For example, look, the last super fight that Crawford was in was probably the Spence fight.
Yeah.
And that was as one-sided as a super fight that you're ever likely to see.
But it was brilliant, yeah.
It was brilliant because you come away from it still flabbergasted going, well, I thought he might win, but I didn't think he'd win like that. Yeah. That were unbelievable what he's put on. Where is he now? The conversation off the back of it is he the pound for pound number one? Where is he on the list? So you get those type of conversations that come with those type of performances.
It really announced them to the maybe not so hardcore boxing fan, didn't it? Crawford and not the ones who'd seen him beat the likes of Ricky Burns early on or do what he did in his career.
Yes.
But on that fight, how I judge it, and I laugh with my son all the time, as I say, I keep mentioning he's a young boxer, coming into the seniors now, and I always sort of mention him, speak about him, but how I have a conversation with him is, I judge on if I will stay awake and watch it live, it must be some fight, because I don't stay awake for many now.
There you go.
There's not many that I won't pre-record and get up in the morning and watch, but if I stayed awake for that. I stayed awake for Crawford Spence because I knew it was going to deliver, and 9 out of 10 of them do deliver, as you say, and are worth staying up for. And but again, as you say, if it never delivered, it certainly wouldn't have been the promoter's fault that put it on at the time. It's down to the fighters, but they did deliver, and Crawford put on a masterclass that night.
Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, I agree with what you've said. I think there's maybe a slight bit of lost in translation with it. I think the Tom and Jerry line caught everybody and raised everybody's eyebrows. All you can do, Turkey El-Sheikh, put the fights on, and I'm sure they're going to be delivering, and I'm sure Canelo Crawford will absolutely deliver when we get there in September. We're going to talk about who boxing's next superstar is in a moment or two, but Lisa O'Sullivan is currently watching the superstars of the world of golf. What's currently going on?
Just enjoying some play from Tyrrell Hatton. The Englishman is -1 for the day, so +1 for the tournament. That's after 12 holes. He's looking to consolidate that with 6 more on the back 9. But the lead is still 3 under at Oakmont. Sam Burns and JJ Spawn, the joint Americans, playing in the final round. Just being traced as well by the Liv's Carlos Ortiz of Mexico. He's 3 under for the day, so he's having an absolute corker. Played 13, looking to try and edge his way. In fact, he has climbed under par for the tournament, so we now have 3 players under par. Ortiz is 1 under, just 2 shots off the lead at this stage.
US Open update on talkSPORT with Arnold Clark's Rewards Week. Get a reward when you buy a car today.
Here's an interesting conversation for you. Who is boxing's next superstar? It feels like there is that transition of eras now, where maybe the Canelos of this world are coming to the time. Who is the next one that jumps off the page? Not necessarily American or Mexican, maybe one from the UK. For you, as you look around at the ones that are coming through, Paul, who do you think the next one is? And when I say superstar, I'm talking can deliver when it comes to the in-the-ring stuff, rocks it on the microphone, puts the bums on the seats, looks the business, basically the next Canelo. Where is that next person coming through?
From here, we've been speaking about them all night. I think it's a Tommy. I think until someone can stand up to him or even take him the distance and make him lose a couple of rounds, then I'm not sure if we're sort of, drifted into that territory of him being a superstar. But as we said before, his personality, there's nothing that really gets him riled or worked up. He just seems so quiet, placid. He's going to certainly be marketable. He's going to have them endorsement deals coming in, as did Anthony Joshua. Obviously, he seems a similar type. Heavyweight division, you can't go wrong with the heavyweights, obviously, and it's very tough to see him sort of even being tested at the moment, although in the next fight, as I said at the start, we'll possibly see that. But he's got superstar material written all over him, in my opinion.
He has that, from following MMA a lot, he has that Tom Aspinall thing about him. With the way that he fights, he's taking people out very, very quickly. And as every challenge that comes his way, he's dealing with it. But he feels like the lad next door.
Yeah, and,
with the personality.
Adam, I was just going to say that obviously you know from all the conversations we've had in the past, I respect and admire MMA so much. I'm in the gym that I'm in at the moment in Four Corners in Liverpool. There's so many top fighters downstairs, and I'm getting to speak to them all most days, and they do a few sessions upstairs. I respect and admire it so much, but I think they're all round the bend. I think they're absolutely nuts what they do, and I watch them train, and they'll work, and they'll really grafts so hard, and then it's like, right, I'm off to jiu-jitsu now, or I'm off to kickboxing now, or I'm off to something else, and the training's so hard to do all these different things. But looking at someone like Tom Aspinall early on, again, all no disrespect to him whatsoever, looking at him and listening to him the way he talks, because he's sort of one of the lads, or one of the local lads with his accent as well, you wouldn't expect him to be as big a star as he is, regardless of how he fights. But he can certainly fight. But that boy next door, girl next door thing really does work, and it sells, and he is one of the lads, and you will probably have a pint with him, like Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton was a megastar in this country because Kenny Cage used to use this line: there's 20,000 people watching him fight, and 10,000 have had a pint with him. And it was probably true, and he was accessible.
Same with Carl Frampton.
Yeah, Carl Frampton's never ever sort of got above his station, never really been too big for his boots, always been one of the lads and one of the lads next door, and wears his heart on his sleeve, and is loved and admired by a nation for it, and rightly so. And what a fighter as well. It always helps if you can fight. But
can Moses get to that? Can he get to that, do you think?
At the moment, I think there's nothing stopping that. And I think once he starts sort of getting more cameras put in front of him, more microphones put in his face, we're going to probably see a little bit more of the personality behind it. I think there will be a personality behind it that will probably be likeable. But as you say, even if it's not likeable, or he isn't, which I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that he isn't, Mayweather played the bad guy at the start. You know, Carl Froch played the bad guy at the start. Carl Zaghi played the bad guy at the start.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden the real person come through in the end, and he was still loved and admired and respected for what they were. So it is interesting. It's going to be interesting now. But yeah, he's definitely got star quality.
Okay.
Put it this way, I wouldn't mind managing him. You know, and I'm sure every manager in the country probably wouldn't. You'd definitely take a punt on that.
Okay then. Around the world right now, who would you pay money to go and watch?
Honestly, I don't pay all that much attention to at the moment to all the fighters, but there's a few out there. Probably, you know, I like watching the likes of Boot Tennis and kids like that.
Okay.
Know, like talented young fighters who are hungry, who are coming through. I love watching Nick Paul. He's a Scouser. He's on my doorstep. I'd pay money to watch him because I like watching him fight. I think he's really exciting. I think he's relentless. I haven't seen much of a work rate like that in a long time for him.
That's a really interesting shout on the superstar thing with Nick Paul, because I think he can, just because of the way that he fights.
The way that he fights, I was watching him in a couple of fights ago, and I was thinking, slow down, lad, you're gonna blow yourself out here. Like a little bit of inexperience maybe creeping in, and that's me, an old Al KGX Pro, watching, thinking, take it easy a little bit, and he just maintained the pace.
The tank's there, yeah.
But then after it, I'm thinking, right, there's a big tick in the box. That's brilliant to be able to maintain that pace, because how many fighters you see, they go for it, they start fading the middle rounds, and they rest a couple of rounds to get the second win, and the second win comes in and they finish the fight strong. But he was just maintaining from bell to bell. To be able to throw that many power shots and keep that pace up while throwing power shots and not just arm shots or filling your way through that's very, very difficult to do. And he did it, and he did it well. So I really like watching Nick Ball. I'd pay to watch Nick Ball fight as well. It helps him being a Scouser.
Yeah, no, listen, from Nick Ball, Moses from British soil, what are you at with the likes of the Adam Azims and the Whitakers of this world, those ones that have maybe... I don't know what it is. They've got a little bit of something there, but do they have the whole package to go and become the superstar?
The Whitaker thing, the jury's out on that until I was happy for him after he did his last fight against Cameron, when he showed that emotion. I was happy seeing it in a way, and I actually said this to him when I saw him, and I don't know him well. Obviously know of him, and he knew who I was, and we had a little quick chat, and I said, no, I said, well done your last fight. I thought showing that emotion afterwards showed he was still human, because he plays the cocky, arrogant kid, and then the character, and he'll be more than happy playing the bad guy, just like Chris Eubank's been all his career, but it's certainly done him no harm. Junior, I mean, it's not senior, but he showed that emotion where you could tell things were getting to him, the stuff the public was saying, or the press was saying, or his peers were saying, or the media. And I said it myself, if he was struggling with Liam Cameron at that time, I've seen someone mentioning Boatti or Yard. Like, don't be mentioning them if your last fight was, you know, releasing a lot of relief after beating Liam Cameron, with all due respect to Liam Cameron, because you had a bad night in the first time where I thought Liam Cameron done great, and I felt he could feel hard done by with the decision when they went over the ropes. But Adam Azim looks the real deal. And I saw a lot of stuff with Adam Azim, with Dalton Smith, who's a fighter I really rate and I like. And it wound me up a little bit, because rather than just saying what it was, Dalton Smith's a little bit further ahead of Adam Azim at that time. And it's not the fight for Adam Azim's career that's going to do him the best by his career at that time. But in a year's time, we'll come back and revisit it, because then it's a more fair fight and a more even fight. Because Adam Azim was just a little bit behind Dalton Smith coming through, which no shame in that, because Dalton Smith's a very good fighter. In 12 months' time, that fight's going to be a lot more level pegging. But Dalton Smith's just always been a little bit ahead, because he turned pro a little bit early, and he's a bit more mature, and he's had a better fight at the moment. But Adam Azim's a frightening prospect. I really like him and rate him. I think he's a very good fighter.
On the worldwide scale, would you go Abdullah Mason?
Yeah, he's looking good. As we said, we just the fight that's just been announced for him, Sam Noakes. Sam Noakes got a great opportunity. Whether or not he can bring the big.
He's been impressive though. Sam Noakes is super impressed. Yeah, to this point,
he has recently. And I saw you mentioned earlier on the notes, Mr. Herrera, and I've seen him up close in the gym, training in the gym. He's got that mentality and that ruthlessness in him to be a killer, to be an old school, old fashioned knockout merchant. Cuban, doesn't care about anyone or anything in that ring. He just wants to beat you and hurt you and get you out of there. And that attitude will take you a long way, and he definitely has that. I'm trying to think of any others, but
Bam Rodriguez,
I love him, but I think he's probably past the stage of what we're looking at towards the next generation.
Do you think he is the generation now?
I think he's the generation. I bumped into him in LA in the Crawford Madrimov fight. I had Ziad Al-Mayouf on the undercard, so that's why I was there all week. I was in the hotel all week, and as soon as he walked in, I just looked at him. I FaceTimed me lad. I said, imagine bumping into this kid in the corridor and like spilling his drink on him, and Imagine the shock of your life you're going to get off anyone. Like, he just looks like
he's on the computers.
He looks like the geeky kid next door, and he probably is the geeky kid next door.
But that's the beauty of him.
But can he fight? Yeah, and that's what you sort of tell. Like I tell my son all the time: just be nice, just be yourself. You don't have to put this bravo macho act on. Like, most boxers are like that. They're quiet, unassuming.
The quietest one in the room is the most dangerous, mate.
100%. The dog that wants to bite you won't bark. I've always, that's the saying I've always used, and you see it all the time. You see these fellas or these people or these fights in the shouting. If you want to hit someone, just hit them. Don't scare them off. Just that's how you need to do it. But he is just that type. He looks so like typical, schoolboy with the glasses, and then he gets in the ring, and I love watching him fight. And I thought at the time that the Sonny Edwards fight would be a lot closer than it was, because I rate Sonny, and he's got a good brain on him and ability, and it wasn't, and that's testament to him again on what I think of him. He's one of my son's favourite fighters, and in the end I was on the FaceTime and I got him to speak to him. He was absolutely delighted when he's got a screenshot of everything else what he loves. But what a fighter. I think he's past the stage of the prospect. Obviously he is now, and if he can take that to the next level, which he looks like he's doing at the moment, then I think he's the next huge star.
What about the young lad tonight? Adam Maka. Got a chance?
Potentially, if he does anything like what he's done in the amateurs. What you have to understand with Adam Maka, and again, like, I've spoke really well of him earlier on, so you know what I think of him. I really like the kid, and if I can ever help him in any way, I would, because he's such a good lad, and the fact that he's boxed my son, and we've always been sort of respectful as families together. I've met his dad and his family, they're lovely people, and I wish them nothing but success. He's got to be wary in the pros of, these aren't the amateurs who are not going to take what you give them. Some of these pros will take it and start giving it back as well, and I think he'll relish that. I think he'll love the fact that they're going to take what he's got, and then he's got to go again and again. But he's got to learn how to unlock a few doors, because early on in his career the pros will be shutting up shop, not want to get caught. I said to my son yesterday when we were looking at the weigh-in, I'm buzzing on he's fighting in the pros in his first few fights, because the prospects in America are challenged early on, because they've got so many fighters to fight, so they don't really have many journeymen in the States, not known as journeymen. They're not there to lose,
so the gaps will be there because the fighter's coming to have a go.
This fighter will certainly be looking for the gaps tonight. I don't know his name, so he will certainly be looking for the gaps, and he'll certainly be trying for them. So Maka's got to just be a little bit more aware of what's coming back, because in the amateurs he's steamrolled through more or less everyone that he's fought, because he's so strong.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, man. Listen, I think we're in good hands. There's some wonderful talent coming through, but I think the general consensus on this show, Moses Atama could be the next one. He's the next generation. Superstar.
If I had to pick a fighter to put my mortgage on, it would be
to manage.
To manage, 100%.
We're talking MMA in a moment, and then we'll look ahead towards next week's action in Birmingham, which has got Galal Yafai fighting for an interim title. Don't be going anywhere. Right, let's turn our attention towards the world of MMA. Your lad's a big MMA fan, isn't he?
He loves it, yeah. Really likes it. He's done a little bit of training and he's got the bug well and truly.
There you go.
Tries to tie me up and make me tap and all
Does
that.
he?
Yeah, he's horrible.
Well, I'm on Lewis Richardson. Lewis Thompson, should I say? Not Lewis Richardson, he's a fighter. Lewis Thompson's out in Prague right now for a little bit of octagon action, but we've also got a bit of UFC tonight out in the United States. Lewis, how are you, mate? You good?
I'm great, Adam. You know, I've never been in a stranger position to do something like this in my entire journalistic career. You know, over 25,000 fans here at the Fortuna Arena for Octagon 72, and the crowd tonight has just been spectacular. From the very, very first fight of the night, you know, right the way through the prelims. There's two more fights to go before Carlos Famula and Attila Vey bow out of MMA once and for all.
Do you know something? These Octagon shows, I want you to try and paint a picture for people that are listening to these, right? Because I know that they've dipped into the UK. They came to Birmingham
for sure.
and a couple of others. But it hasn't necessarily caught fire in the UK. When they go to Prague, the Czech Republic, when they go out to Germany, we're talking, like you've just said, 25,000 people tonight, 60,000 stadiums. I mean, they come out in their droves for these shows.
Yeah, you just cut out there at the beginning, but yeah. And I spoke to Pavel Neruda, you know, one of the co-founders of Octagon MMA, and you know, getting into the UK and Ireland is something that he does want to do. That they've had shows there in the past in Manchester, in Birmingham, in Newcastle, and you know, he actually said to me it was hard because they're used to selling out such massive arenas, but they do definitely want to make that transition at the end of the day. I mean, their current double champion Will Fleury, heavyweight and light heavyweight. You know, he's arguably the face of the promotion right now. I see him about. I've just spoke to him there for about 15 minutes. He's getting selfies with fans. You know, he's drinking pints. He's having a great time. And But yeah, you're right. They're, I think through these events, and they've just signed a big TV deal with RTL in Europe. They're really trying to kind of catch that UK audience and become the number 2 MMA promotion.
Lewis, you can't say that. Well, I've got a Scouser in the studio, mate. The face of the promotion, Shamrock. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that Shem's the guy.
You know, I was there in Munich for my first live event, and I spoke to Shem, and Shem's such a great guy. You know, he's really open with the media and interviews and everything else like that. Dennis Frimpong was also on the card.
Yeah.
Hulls George Staines was on that one too. But yeah, and Shem came out wearing a mouth guard saying Dana ? So, you know, we don't know what. I think he's a free agent right now. Shamrock is. But yeah, he's a great guy. But I would personally like to see him have 1 or 2 more fights here at Octagon before making that move to the UFC, but we'll see what happens.
I'll talk to Paul about Scouse MMA in a minute, mate, because they're absolutely flying in a few of them gyms up in the north of England. Just want to get your thoughts on the fight night tonight. Kamaru Usman, we haven't seen him for a period of time, pal. He's taking on Joaquin Buckley. Buckley's flying right now. Wonderful opportunity for him to take on a former champion. Where is Kamaru Usman at the moment in his career?
You know, it's funny. Obviously, Kamaru Usman coming off a 3-fight losing skid, but they're the only 3 defeats of his UFC career so far. And you know, when you take into account the head kick from Leon Edwards, he was arguably winning the entire fight up until that point. The rematch probably came too soon for him, and then he went in there on short notice with Khamzat Chimaev. You know, Kamaru Usman can win this fight, Adam. And he certainly needs to. This almost feels like the eliminator before the title eliminator to then go on and maybe fight Bilal to get the opportunity to contest, you know, whoever wins between JDM and Islam for the belt. But I mean, Buckley, the power that guy carries in his hands it's just unbelievable. You know, he's the younger guy, he's the fresher guy, he's the more active guy. And I don't know what you think, but I can't really see anything else but Buckley going in there, getting right in Usman's face and scoring an early stoppage, whether that be the second or third round.
Yeah, I do feel... I love Kamaru. I think he's a fantastic guy, but it just feels like the train is off the track at the moment, and Joaquin Buckley is not the guy that you want to be running into. Another person that's in action tonight that I'm a massive fan of is Rose Namajunas, and I think she's got a tough one tonight against Miranda Maverick, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Rose Namajunas, obviously a former two-time champion in the UFC, and that head kick over Zhang Weili, you know, puts her up there with the very, very best. I just feel like I do think Namajunas is going to win this by a decision, but I think it'll be a bit more even than people are seeing. You know, the Maverick is younger, and she'll be wanting to go in there and almost make this fight ugly. You know, she relies heavily on her grappling, and I just feel like what Thug Rose needs to do in this fight is get out there, win those first 2 rounds, stuff a few takedowns, and kind of ultimately rely on her experience. But I do think this one will be a lot closer than what people are saying it'll be.
Will I be seeing you in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks?
We'll have to ask the talkSPORT boss.
Get yourself on the International Fight Week trip, my man. Topuria, Charles Oliveira. I mean, let's be honest, we missed out on the super fight between Topuria and Makhachev, but as a consolation, and I don't want to call it a consolation because it's still a super fight, but as a consolation, it doesn't get better than Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, does it?
I mean, this is such a mega fight. I mean, you know, when there was talks of him fighting Islam, it was up there, you know, kind of Jones Aspinall, and now that obviously seems. I'm glad you haven't asked me about that. Yeah, that seems.
I'll leave you alone, mate. I'll leave you alone. I won't pet your head about that. Don't you worry.
That seems to be a door firmly shut on that fight. Yeah, but I mean, Ilia Topuria, you know, the kind of star power that guy carries, and he talks a lot about Conor McGregor being his idol. You know, growing up, obviously Conor McGregor's gone on to do what Conor McGregor's done, but Topuria has the potential to go out there and be the guy and be the guy in the entirety of the MMA world. And the one thing I'm just dying for, Adam, is Topuria versus Pimlet. I want to see that fight. I want to see it for the lightweight title. And you know, being here in such a massive stadium, and I still don't understand why Dana White is so against these stadiums. I really do believe that it's the next step for the UFC. I mean, over 25,000 people, that's higher than most like UFC pay-per-view cards. But I do think the UFC are coming in to a really strong period, especially after O'Malley and Dvalishvili. You know, some big fights coming up. Obviously, you've got Poirier Holloway, and then you've got Khamzat Duplessis coming up. And I think he's trying to really look for. They're in the negotiation stages for their broadcast deal with the UFC, so they're trying to get the big boys to pay up. So they are, but yeah, Topuria Oliveira will be a huge fight. I expect Topuria to go out there and get the win and become the new lightweight champion.
You never know, Lewis. Right, this Canelo Crawford fight that he's involved with. They might do it at the Allegiant because they've not named a venue yet in Las Vegas. He might find a little bit of a thirst for doing these big stadium fights. Topuria calls out Paddy the Baddy. They're off to the Bernabeu. Trent Alexander-Arnold's at cage side, mate. That's the one that everybody wants, don't they?
Oh, man, can you imagine the scenes? I mentioned I was speaking to Will Fleury there, the heavyweight and light heavyweight champ at Octagon at the minute, and he kind of summed it up perfectly. UK fans and Ireland fans, they just kind of need to get a taste of what's going on tonight. And if people go on and look up Octagon 72 and the atmosphere in the arena tonight, and maybe Dana is paying attention. Obviously, he's got his business model. He knows what the crack is when it comes to putting on shows. But I mean, tonight, it's really opened my eyes to how much more MMA can be. I mean, the halftime show was hitting an hour. I think they had 2 or 3 different musicians on stage, fireworks, all sorts.
Look at you're at the Super Bowl tonight, man. You're having a whale of a time, aren't you?
I'm having a great time. I'm still 2 fights left.
Good lad. Well, I'll let you get back in there, mate, because I don't want you to miss anything. Thank you very much for giving up a bit of time there, Lewis. I know those Octagon shows, they are sensational. Top man, thank you very much, buddy. They are great. Make sure you're checking them out. And if you do get an opportunity to go to Eastern Europe to check out some of those Octagon shows in the stadiums, they are sensational. What is it about Scousers and fighting, right? Because you've cracked the gamers in the boxing, and now as I just flirt around in the various gyms that I do participate in up in Liverpool, Next Gen, Aspire, all these gyms. You've just mentioned Four Corners there a couple of moments ago with John Gillies doing his thing with the gang. There are some seriously talented MMA fighters doing bits coming out of your city.
Yeah, and I say, excuse me, I'm not the biggest fan of it because I don't understand it too much. And to be honest with you, I used to laugh and like rugby. I'd watch rugby and I'd watch 2 fellas tackle each other and think, why would you want to play that game? You're all round the bend, they're tapped. And I watch these MMA fighters, and I know a lot of them now, and I respect them all massively. And I just think, you're nuts. You I'm this distance from you. Let's say 4 foot. You can't hit me from there.
No, might be able to kick you though.
But you can kick me in the head. So I'm safe in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm standing safe thinking, you cannot hit me, and I'm very comfortable and confident, and then a leg will come up and kick you in the head and knock you out and take your senses away. Or as I said before, my lad will come in and start messing around, he'll lie on his back, and I'll think, well, that's not fair because I can't punch you, because obviously we've got no gloves on, we're messing around in the living room, and he'll just grab my ankle, twist my leg, and then do this thing called a calf slice or something, and I can't move, and then I'm walking.
He's been really doing a bit if he's putting calf slices on you.
He's decent at it, and he loves it, and he watches it all the time, and he'll tell me, again, without sounding too disrespectful, he'll say to me, Dad, this is going to be a good fight, going to be 2 good strikers against each other, and I'll watch it with him, and I'll think, that was a really good fight, and I like it, and I do like MMA, but I just don't understand it enough to judge it, and I'll watch it, I've got a general feeling of who's won that round based on what I've seen.
Yeah.
But one of them can lie on his back all round and win the round and do well. Rose Namajunas, who you mentioned, I like watching her. I think she can fight.
Yeah.
And when my son got a skinhead, he was the spitting image of her, so I was giving him a bit of stick about that one. But she can fight. I did used to like watching Ronda Rousey. I remember getting the old videos back in the day, the old VHS.
Yeah.
Of is it Don Fry with the mustache, and I loved him.
They were proper old school fans then.
Ken Shamrock and a couple of others, and like the old school stuff. But the sport, obviously, considering how short it's been out, it has absolutely been booming, and it's massive now. It's going nowhere. It's there for good. And a lot of people used to say it's taking over boxing, and they say it's apples and oranges. And I don't like the comparisons. And when the boxers go over, they shouldn't last 2 minutes. And when the MMA fighters come over to boxing, they shouldn't last 2 minutes. And that's how it is. But it's an unbelievable sport.
We were just talking about superstars. How big is Paddy around your way?
Massive. He's huge.
Because I live in a bubble, right? And I know how big. I go to the shows and I think, geez, man, this is crazy how much this is transcending. But from a commercial point of view, on the streets and stuff like that, are people aware of what Paddy's doing?
Oh, definitely. He's massive. He's flying. He's doing really well. He's doing great. I was last time I seen him, I was walking in Wembley, and he was literally in the queue with me, walking into Wembley. He had his meal prep, and I had the Five Guys. And I think we both told the woman on the front that we were diabetic, so we had to bring our own food in. But I wasn't eating some of the crap food in Wembley, so I brought my own Five Guys in, and he had his meal prep for us. He was prepping for his fight, which he obviously won and done really well in. Now again, He's one of them people now. I don't think he'd be able to walk around the city without getting bothered now in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Definitely, but he's in the right, and he's like that worldwide. No, it's not. He's probably one of them people who get recognised a lot more probably outside of Liverpool because he's doing that well.
Yeah.
And especially in the States, they love him in the States, don't they? I see him all with the wigs on and all that. Mate, listen, ride it as long as he can. I hope he wins the title. I hope he becomes world champion in the UFC. It'd be a phenomenal achievement for him if he does.
It might be sooner rather than later, mate, because in 2 weeks' time, Topuria fights Oliveira, and if Topuria wins, he's already said, I'm calling out Paddy, and Paddy's not going to turn that down. And then
no way.
And then it's on. Imagine that.
Brilliant. And as I said,
Stadium fight, get it at Anfield.
I hope Shem gets a contract as well, or gets in the
He's
UFC.
a character.
He's a character. He's a good lad. He always comes across, as I say, very respectful. I follow him and watch the training that he does. Some of the training that they do, like they deserve everything they get.
Yeah, they do. We're going to preview next weekend's your 5 fights, so stick around for that. Before we clear off, though, final update from us anyway on the golf. Lisa O'Sullivan, what's going on?
Yeah, watching Tyrrell Hatton having a very sweet back 9 at Oakmont. He was level par at the turn and -3 after 13, but I was just about to sing his praises as he landed it in the sand on the right-hand side of that 14th green. So could be in a little bit of bother there. JJ Spawn and Sam Burns still sharing the lead out in front. -3 for the tournament. Victor Hovland's moved under par as well. So he and Carlos Ortiz is the only 4 players under par for the tournament, with Adam Scott sharing 4th place alongside Tyrrell Hatton.
US Open update on talkSPORT with Arnold Clark's Rewards Week. Save up to £1,000 on selected cars this week.
Thank you very much for joining us so far this evening. Only one more bit to go, and that's the preview next weekend show, which heads to Birmingham. Galal Yafai, who has looked really, really good as a pro, obviously coming off a fantastic amateur career, stepping into the pro game, and now off the back of a fantastic victory over Sonny Edwards last time out, next weekend is fighting against Rodriguez for WBC interim championship. How highly do you rate him? Out of what, I mean, very similar story to the Smith family, the Galal family.
Yeah,
the Yafai family, shall I say?
The Yafai, yeah, great family. Cal obviously started everything off. I know Cal the most out of them, but just through being probably closer to my age, the old fellas. good family, good lads, really good, and you can't not wish them all the success that they're having. But obviously, again, a bit like our family, the youngest one's the superstar, the best one out of them, which I think is as
he learns from the older ones.
I think is as it should be. Yeah, I think the young ones should be learning from the older ones. Don't make the same mistakes they made, and everything that they did right, you do more of. And Galal's certainly coming on, as expected after his success in the Olympics. And
yeah.
Again, the fight with Sonny Edwards, I expected it to be a bit closer than what it was.
Yeah.
And I think Sonny obviously realised in there and then, like we were saying in the middle of this show earlier on, I think he just realised this isn't the place for me anymore. And he likes it on the other side of the ropes now, doing the management with the fighters, and he's doing really well at that. But we saw sort of a coming of age in that fight for Galal Yafai. And we sort of knew he was the real deal anyway before that, but to win as convincingly as he did in that fight, which was a little bit personal for him and for Sonny as well, obviously, which we saw in the build-up, that obviously then definitely announced him on the scene.
It's not an easy one, this. I mean, I know that most people look at it and go, well, Galal's going to go in there and do the business, but Rodriguez did come up against Ioka in Japan. He fell short on that world title attempt. So he's had a look at world level. Anything below that he's done really, really well at. He's got a decent knockout rate as well. Galal's going to have to be switched on. I know it's Birmingham, he'll be pumped up for it, and it's his place, but he'll have to be switched on next weekend.
Yeah, I've just been having a look through his record before. So our old mate Donny Nietes on there as well, and obviously he's a huge puncher. So listen, if we're saying this, Galal Yafai be sitting there going, it's not never seen before, you know what I mean? But I think like any other fighter, they'll be overestimating him. It's always better to overestimate and then get in there and be pleasantly surprised rather than get in there thinking I'm going to be okay and then they get caught with by a big puncher. But he hasn't put a foot wrong yet, Galal Yafai, and I think it's going to take probably a lot more than the opponent on Saturday to put a foot wrong there. I can't see Rodriguez posing too much of a problem for you, Fight.
I'm happy with the matchup for Peter McGrail as well. I think a lot of fight fans know who Ian at Baluta is. He's a tough customer. He's got some nice wins on there. He's got some great performances on there. But McGrail, it kind of feels like McGrail needs this one. You know what I mean? Again, another elite amateur. I'm one of them that would pull the trigger maybe a little bit earlier than most others, but I rate him very, very highly. I know that people shout at me and go, he had a bump in the road. Yeah, but he avenged the bump in the road, and now we're rocking and rolling, aren't we?
Yeah, he avenged the bump in the road, obviously, and we've seen with Baluta, obviously, against McGrail's gym mate in Brad Stand.
Yeah.
So everyone knows Baluta anyway, but Peter will know him inside out, and I think Peter's a top quality operator who needs to sort of, he needs to crack on now. I think in his personal life, I think he's got a baby on the way. It's just not a baby. He's getting more serious, and he needs to really squeeze the last drop of his potential out of himself. Has he got a world title in him? Can he do it? The amateur pedigree would suggest yes.
How hard is it turning over, Paul? You've been there. You've been that elite amateur. Your brothers have been those elite amateurs. How hard is it to turn over and make a do of it in the program?
For me, it just depends on how good an amateur you was, or how, more importantly, how amateurish you were, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, your style was more pro.
My style was suited to the pros. Liam's was certainly suited to the pros, whereas Stephen was trying his best to be a better amateur when he was an amateur, because he had the fast feet in and out and boxing and trying to manipulate that system of computer scoring. Then he turned pro and he had to work on redeveloping himself as a pro style and coming forward, throwing body shots and that. McGrail was the stereotypical amateur, and amateur style, and not be hitting hands down. He still fights that way. Listen, there's an argument of saying it's a bit of an Everton right triangle way of fighting as well, because a lot of the fighters fight that way out of an Everton right triangle, and a bit loose, fluid, more amateurish. Nick Ball obviously books that trend. He obviously books that trend, but he is one of the elite amateurs from the country. McGrail can be thrown in that bracket with your likes of, not on achievements, but with your likes of your Frankie Gavin, Tom Stoker, or back in the day were known as top class amateurs from this country in relatively recent times. Let's say not many years ago.
And you've just highlighted two lads there actually that then did maybe struggle when they went into the pro game. Tom was fantastic, obviously captain of Team GB and what have you. When he came into the pro game, it didn't necessarily kick like it did in the amateurs. Frankie as well. didn't achieve the things
Frankie's
that he maybe...
having a bare knuckle fight soon, isn't he? He's gone into the bare knuckle. But I always use this example, and I'm not putting Frankie or Tom down by any stretch of the imagination. Unbelievable amateur boxers, and I'm not slagging the other two I'm going to mention off. But years ago, if you'd have told me at the start when they were both amateur, you can have Frankie Gavin, Tom Stalker, or Sam Eggington and Masha Dodd. And yet when they fought in the pros, it was the latter two that
got the
came
wins.
out victorious and got the wins because it's a different sport. And this is what I keep saying about these amateurs turning pro, like we said at the very start of the show with Tom and the others. When do you let them off the leash? It's tough to judge it and get it right, obviously, because it could be a little fight too soon and then the fight is never the same after that, or they just might not adapt to the pros. There's always so many boxes to tick with these young top amateurs turning pro, but I think back to where we started on Galal Yafai, I think he's there, and I think if McGrail can get the right fights, I think he can certainly do it as a pro.
That's all coming up next week from Birmingham. Before I let you clear off, is there one fight that you would like to see between now and the end of the year? Have we spoke about it already, maybe this evening?
Not really, no. But I'm probably the wrong person to ask on that. As long as my brothers are getting the fights that they want, or Callum, who's left, then I'll be happy. I'd love to see Callum against Yard or Benavidez, and I think either one of them will probably be made by the end of the year. If it's not, it'll certainly be in the next year, and we'll see him out busy this year. But with the heavyweights, would I like to see AJ Wilder or AJ against Fury? Probably, yeah. I'd rather see AJ against Fury, and if that's going to happen, then why not make that happen before the end of the year? But as I said, I believe AJ's had elbow surgery, arthroscopy in his elbow, keyhole surgery, so I can't see that happening just yet.
Are you off out now, we brothers? They're out and about around town, aren't they?
I think Callum's literally FaceTiming me now.
There you go, see?
I'm going straight for a coffee and a cannoli, and I'm going to have a little chill out.
Nah, mate, you're in town, man. Get out with the boys.
I'm far too old for them clubs.
Listen, thank you very much for tuning in to us tonight. Cheers for your company, Paul. I appreciate it much. Don't forget, Simon will be back with Talk Boxing this week. Make sure you get stuck into his show. That's on Monday, and you can subscribe to the Talk Boxing YouTube channel. You can also pick up the talkSPORT Fight Night podcast, and make sure you're subscribing to that as well, where you get closer to the action, not just about the boxing but also about the MMA. Next week, slightly different. Gareth and Spencer will be in the studio for you, and then the week after I'll be bringing you some stuff from Las Vegas, because it's International Fight Week. We've got, in the world of MMA, Charles Oliveira taking on Ilia Topuria for the world title at lightweight, and as well as that, there'll be a bit of a stack card, so we'll be getting you closer to the action out there. So if you're into MMA, make sure you come and join us. Dead simple. And all this will be gearing us nicely towards the big one that is happening on July the 19th between Usyk and Dubois. Are you sorting your night out?
Buttoning them, sorry.
Just a quick one on that. Usyk Dubois, I'm not going to ask you how you think the fight's going to play out, but just to get the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world 4-belt era on British soil, I mean, that's pretty special for British fight fans right now to go and enjoy that at Wembley, isn't it?
Yeah, and it would be great for British fight fans if
a British fighter pulled it off,
or a British fighter was to win. But what you'd have to remember with Usyk, and again, like it's not me being sort of anti-patriotic. I love Usyk.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in this country love Usyk for what he is and the fact that he's beaten Fury.
For me,
so
boxing's
now
not
he's
tribal.
On board.
It's not tribal.
It's not for me. Scouse boxers, maybe.
I get
Scouse
that.
boxers, yeah. You know, we have that thing. But obviously, if I've met Usyk a couple of times. I like Usyk. The stories I hear about Usyk from people in his camp, like Rosamba and that, I admire him so much. What's happening in his own country, I admire him. The fact that he's willing to go and stand on the front line with it, like I respect and admire Usyk so much. My brother Callum is a massive Usyk. Liam and Stephen are as well. Callum was on the Super Series tournament, and Usyk was in the cruiserweight, and Callum was in the super middle. Callum got in the lift with Usyk and was like, he had the cap on. He's like, "Have you got any spare caps?" to Callum, and Usyk went, "You want my cap?" And he went,